All right, welcome guys to episode 1 of Prepared. You like the name, by the way, Zirene? What of
Yeah, I like
Prepared?
it. I like it a lot. It's both a pun for TBC, but also like I think it's like preparation, like rogues too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah,
shout
welcome
out.
to episode 1, guys, of Prepared. So this is gonna be your weekly TBC breakdown, a little bit of news, a little bit of current events, a little bit of everything. I think. Yeah. So welcome, guys. This episode is brought to you by tbcguides.gg, the self-proclaimed best WoW website for guides that is not live yet and will be live soon. It may be also created by me, but yeah. If you guys don't know me, I assume if you're on my stream, you guys know me. I'm Snow. Hello. I run Classic Roguecraft. If you play a rogue in Classic WoW, you probably use my website at one point in time. And yeah, so that's me. I guess Zirene, you want to intro yourself?
Yeah, my name is Zirene. I'm a former League of Legends commentator, esports commentator. I still do it, but not so much for League of Legends. I've moved to World of Warcraft. I play Classic WoW. I play in the #1 US guild for speedrunning for Naxxramas right now. I play main tank, off tank, Holy Paladin, and Rogue, of course. And Rogue is the one that I consider my true main, but people want me for the other things more because people don't really want rogues as much, So somebody who can play like a tank or like a healer, it's like, why would you play rogue at that point, unfortunately? But yeah, so that's what I do. That's why I'm, have some credibility to some extent, and why I think you should probably listen to some of the things I have to say, regardless of how crazy they might be. Just give them, give it its, its due diligence. Think about it. I'll have some crazy shit in my head, but theory crafting is what you got to do at the highest level to get any sort of edge, like speedrunning. Like, there's speed runs where people have all warriors and literally no mages, right? So you got to get really creative with how you do things, and you can't always think in the same way as everyone else, is what I've noticed. So.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing is, I mean, when my audience hears Zirene, a lot of people don't even know that you play. Wow, I guess you get that a lot. It's probably constantly when you stream. The question is probably, "Wow, Zirene, I didn't know you played WoW."
Yep, didn't know you played WoW, right? I get a lot of questions about League, like, why aren't you playing League, or do you still care about League and stuff like that? It's like, obviously, the reach and I don't like using the word fame, but I guess I'll use it. The reach and fame that League of Legends has as a commentator, that's going to stick with you. It's kind of like, I don't know if you know, like, League of Legends players like High from Cloud9, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's still going to know him from Cloud9, even when he's been on different teams and he's an analyst and stuff like that. Everybody's like, oh, he's High from Cloud9. They don't go like High from FlyQuest or anything like that, any of the teams he was on later.
Yeah.
So people will remember you for very specific things, and that totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people don't know Zirene from WoW, but when did we meet? Maybe I think it was phase 3. You randomly popped in my stream when I was farming nature resist gear. Mm-hmm. And you just randomly popped in. I think that was when the first time I actually even knew that you played WoW. And I think I had the exact same reaction as everyone else. Yeah, I was like, hey, Zirene, you play WoW?
Yeah, I had used your website, and I remembered it was I had made the argument to people in my guild that I didn't want like full Bloodfang, because I was like, I think that using like the way that people value hit at the moment, I'm like, hit's probably just going to be better, and I don't like dodge shoulders. It's actually terrible item, terrible boots, terrible shoulders, and gloves. So I'm just like, I don't really want this set. Instead, I'm going to use these pieces, like the ZG shoulders. I wanted to use like the boots of Shadow Flame. And I was like, it's going to be more DPS. Like, I was like, it's got to be the way that we value this stuff. There's no way the proc rate makes up for that much hit. Like, I added up all the stats and compared them. And then I was like, yeah, there's no way that, X amount of hit is worth less than, or is worth less than this proc. Like, this has to be worth more than this. This is too much hit. This is too much stats. I didn't have like an actual equation to plug it into, but just compared them. I was like, this has to be right. And when I found your website, that's where I was like, okay, like, I liked what you were doing with your sims, and noticed that you had put a breakdown of rogues that are daggers and swords, and that it's actually best for both of them to go with the clown suit setup.
Yeah.
But it's worse for dagger rogues, and it's better for sword rogues, even though it's not eight Bloodfang is not better than the clown suit. It's still like better for sword rogues than it is for dagger rogues. So the whole argument was, give your sword rogues the 8-piece, because smaller difference between that and the clown suit. And I was like, that's actually a really good argument. I'm still gonna go for the clown suit because I care about min max. But like, I was like, I like the way that you were thinking, so I wanted to pop in and like talk to you about that.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting part was back then. It was kind of man, what was my train of thought going? I got mesmerized watching the Discord. Yeah. Back then it was kind of no one was really doing that stuff back then. But I mean, the reason why I wanted to get you on as the co-host, like people might be confused because there's so many WoW people in the space that I could have gone on a bunch of other YouTubers or something. But the reason why I picked Zirene in particular was because you have a very analytical way of looking at things and theory crafting and such. And I think it's a rare thing for people to have, one, firstly, they have decent audio equipment. Two, they are able to think through things and analyze and such. And then three, they're able to like, it's kind of like two different skill sets. I know a lot of people who are really analytical, but they can't convey that analytical things into words. Mm-hmm. And it's the communication. There's kind of like a breakdown in between your head and telling everyone else and getting it out to everyone else. So for me, yeah, you're kind of like BIS up there. Like I think even my guildies in progress have talked about it. We always said like if we could pick one person to do all speedrun breakdowns and things like that, you would be like at the top of the list because you're like one of the few people who can both do the commentating and fill in like the small talk and the analytical side at the same time.
Yeah, I like to look at things really like minutely. It comes from, you know, not just the League of Legends background. It's one of those things where like I'm not analytical because I was a commentator. I was a commentator because I was analytical, right? It's one of those things I just always was thinking about. I enjoy thinking about thinking, right? My background's actually in cognitive psychology. And a lot of that is to question your own beliefs. And it's a thing called cognitive behavioral therapy. I know it's called CBT, not the kind that most people will think of. But CBT for this is where you'll go like, okay, why do I do X as a reaction to this? What am I actually afraid of, right? Why do I not want a PvP? Well, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid of looking stupid? Why am I afraid of looking stupid? Well, what's the worst thing? And then it's just this whole thing where you question and like actually think about why you think the way you do. So that's always fascinated me. And, you know, I like picking people's brains who also have an analytical mind like you and figuring how you got to these conclusions. And, you know, like I said at the start, I will believe anything that has like a really good basis to it. And I can actually be like on board with that. So I consider myself to be kind of open-minded to that. Yeah. So I like to just expand my mind and figure out who has like really good ideas that I can like latch onto and see. That's why I love speedrunning, because you watch other people's and you're like, how can we make that better? And I love that type of thing.
Yeah, it's always interesting with the whole speedrunning scene as well, in that everyone kind of learns from everyone else, and it's yeah, we'll get into it later because I do want to talk speedrunning in TBC as well, and as well as general speedrunning. But yeah, it's always interesting. I've always found the speedrunning thing interesting, just to see what people new things people come up with, especially China, man. China's always doing some crazy stuff.
They're too good, dude. Yeah. They're too good. I actually have no clue. Like their damage isn't higher than like Progress or Salad Bakers, but the things they do are just insane and very, very technical and require like a lot of like group mentality, right? That's the thing, is like there's people in my guild where they'll blow like a lip or something because they were really close to dying on like a trash pack, and then you get to the Fairlina Megapole and they're like, they don't have Invispot up, and you're like, well, like, yeah, you should have like either held your damage or gone about it correctly. Whereas, you know, when I watch noobs run, it's very uniform. It's very much so. It's like very scripted, right? Everybody uses this at this time. Everybody uses that at that time. And that's how it should be. But it's so hard to get people out of that individual mindset of like, I'm going to pump, I'm going to do this or that. You got to like play for the group. So I like how China does it. And it's actually something that other people take a lot of cues from.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we'll get more into that. I have a whole thing on speedrunning. But yeah, so we should, this is the TBC/Classic podcast. We should cover some TBC stuff at some point.
Of course.
Yeah. So first thing on the topic list, gold cap. What I know how I feel about it. I want to see how you feel about it first, though. Well, what are your opinions on the lack of gold cap? So Blizzard has said then they're essentially not doing anything with gold cap. They're gonna let people take in whatever they have on them into TBC. If it's 5K, if it's 100K, doesn't matter. So what are your thoughts?
I think it's going to create a situation where the people who are new to the game and people who come in fresh with like a new 58 or roll on a new server, it's going to be very unfriendly for them. And I think it's going to push people to buy a lot more gold. I think it's going to make the value of gold go up in TBC for like gold sellers. And people are going to just go to that because I think if you have such an inflated economy from about over a year and a half, 2 years, of having people play a game and stockpile gold, and then you come into it fresh, like obviously there's going to be a lot of demand for people to get gold. And I think things are going to be really expensive, like especially at the start. I think things are going to be really expensive. You want to go level your enchanting really quickly, you're going to drop it and then level up leatherworking afterwards. I think those mats are going to be ridiculously expensive because people are very lazy and they're willing to pay the premium on it if they have the gold. So I think that's going to be like it's going to be hard to get basic necessities at the beginning because of this. And I think that's what's going to happen is a lot of the people who are rich and have a lot of gold are just going to be able to buy things at an inflated price, and they'll pay it, which will make the price stay that way. So
yeah. Well,
that's how I feel about gold cap. Is it's not friendly to new players at all, and I think it's going to incentivize people to buy gold a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm sure you know as well. So I'm in 2 guilds. I'm in Progress on EU, which is like a world #1 guild, and then on NA, I'm on a more casual side of things, like a semi-hardcore, semi-casual side of things. And I see both sides of the coin as far as hardcore and casuals. And I have guildies who they're gonna go into TBC with 100, 200,000. One of my friends has a screenshot. He showed that he's made like 1 million gold in classic already, and he's just gonna go in there. He's already planned out these are the patterns I'm going to take over in the auction house. This is what I'm gonna do. This is how I'm going to destroy the auction house and just dominate everyone else with my insane gold that I'm just taking straight into TBC. And man, it's interesting because I see it from the side of the player base that doesn't do GDKPs. I'm probably one of the few people that does not. I think I've done 1 GDKP ever.
Really?
Yeah. No GDKPs. And as someone
how do you afford consumes, bro?
That's what people ask me, man.
I guess you're not. Oh, you are playing multiple characters though.
Yeah.
Like you got like really generous guild bank. What you doing, man?
Generous viewers. Sometimes.
The streamer privilege.
Yeah. Streamer, the Asmund Gold strategy. I do that sometimes. Yeah, but
you guys are bad. You're enabling him, guys. What the hell?
But you know, sometimes it's rough, and some weeks people look at my stream before I raid, and I'll be on my other character because one character is always raid logged. That's just wow. Welcome to classic WoW. One character is always raid logged, and they'll look at my gold because they'll be saying, "Hey Snow, why are you farming sandworms in Silithus?" And I open my bag slot and I show them, hey guys, have you seen that it says I have 50 gold right now on this character? That is all the gold I have on this account. And welcome to someone that doesn't do GDKB. So I don't get the 2,000 gold or whatever people are getting every single week. And every week on some of my characters is a struggle. It's a struggle. Man. And like it's never incentivized me more to want to buy gold. If I wasn't like a streamer or something like that who couldn't risk being banned and such for that, I would probably buy gold, honestly, because the way Blizzard, it feels like a big middle finger from Blizzard to everyone that hasn't done GDKPs or hasn't participated in that whole inflated economy. It just feels really bad. That's what it does. It just feels really bad for everyone that hasn't done it. It's almost like Blizzard is saying that you have to do it.
Yeah, I was about to say GDKPs are essentially a necessity right now. Like you gotta do it if you want to like raid, especially on like tanks and stuff like that. You gotta have like a second character. It's just kind of how things are right now. If you really want to have an easy time with the game, is you just gotta play it with GDKPs and all that, because it's the best gold per hour that you could possibly get right now, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah. So. I mean, it feels like the game wasn't. I really hated Blizzard's statement. They released this statement where well, let me see if I can find a statement, because it enraged me, the statement that it had. Blizzard gold cap.
What's the average for a GDKP run? So I do a GDKP Nax. We're one of the guilds that can actually clear all of Nax with GDKP. And our payouts have been... 4,000, 4,000, 4,000, 5,000 in the last 4 weeks. And the big thing is, we get like 4,000, anywhere from like 3,500 to 5K. Our last one was like 4,900. But the people who are running it take a 15% cut, 5 for the G Bank, 5 for each of them. One who raid leads and one who does all the spreadsheets. And then I checked in, like 5% is 14K. Like when they walk away with 14K to each of them. And so they've made like 50K from 4 weeks of doing this.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like the value of GDKPs is absolutely insane. So here's the Blizzard here's the Blizzard quote is that they said why they're not doing it is because the things that allow people to get all this gold so quickly are knowledge and experience and willingness to put in the time and effort. And for me, it's just like you can just delete that and just say the things that allow people to get all this gold so quickly are GDKPs and GDKPs and GDKPs. For the most part, because I get it, because I have a friend that made all his gold through auction housing, so that he actually did put in the time, the effort, and all that. He controlled the economy. But even my friends who make a lot of gold through just other means, like half of their stash is still from GDKPs. They still do the GDKPs because it's just free gold. Like it feels like the game right now has just become about having 2,000 gold a week just income from GDKPs, and if you're not part of that, then well good luck. You join me feeling stupid farming sandworm meats and silphus.
I mean, some people enjoy playing the game and not raid logging, right? And if they enjoy the farming aspect too, then more power to them. But yeah, I just think it's too hard to police as well. Like, how would you stop people from getting gold cap? Like, or how would you stop people from bringing gold over? They would either invest it into a lot of materials on bank alts and things like that. Yeah. Like, people are saying like, oh, only allow X amount of gold to come over, and I'm like, they're just going to put it into a bunch of like stuff on the auction house, and then they're going to liquidate it later, right? Yeah. Maybe it won't be worth the same, but still, you can just hold a whole section of the auction house hostage for the future when people level professions, etc. If you're smart about it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the other question is like, I think most people agree that it would be healthy for the game to have some sort of gold cap or something stopping people, but like, how would you even do it? Is the big problem.
Yeah.
How would you do it? Because I could see, like, my idea, if I had to do it, I might limit both gold and then the amount of inventory slots. But then the problem is that the really big ballers, they're just going to buy multiple accounts and do it that way, right? But I feel like it's better. Some solution that some people are going to negate is still better than nothing. I'm not a fan of the Blizzard approach where they're kind of going down the route of, well, this won't stop it, so we're going to do nothing at all. And I don't know, it feels bad. It feels bad as the player that's affected by it, that the company won't even try something to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I know what it's like working at a company where, I think the best thing they could do is this, honestly, because if they do something and they try to fix it and it's not a good fix, like it just feels even worse, right? It feels like I have to do whatever it is to circumvent the system, get around it, so I can play with all my friends in the same cash club, right? So it's like, sure, it's the feeling of having to do GDKPs for you guys, but for me, it would be like, well, I gotta do this other inconvenient thing. I gotta buy a bunch of Blizzard accounts and spread my gold out or whatever. I just think that if they were going to do something, it has to be the perfect solution. Otherwise, do nothing at all, right? And that was something that, like, at Riot, they would always say is like, we're not going to do this unless we do it perfectly. It's why Riot's canceled a bunch of games in the past that they've had under development, is because they're not going to release a game that's shit or try to release a game that's shit, right? They have to release something that's genre defining. You think of like MOBA, you think League of Legends, you think of like a tactical shooter, it was like CSGO, you think of an MMORPG, World of Warcraft. So for them, it's like they're not going to release an MMORPG unless it's better than World of Warcraft and it's genre defining. They're not going to do something unless it's going to be perfect. That's how I think most companies in the gaming space are trying to do things now that have the polish to their games. So I think Blizzard, despite it being like Activision Blizzard, I still think it's the better move to do nothing there and do other changes like they have been doing with TBC, which thank God they've been listening, right? It seems like they do want what's best for the player, but I think they are only doing things that are clearly good moves in my mind, as opposed to things that are really like
questionable.
I would questionable, right? Like, it's not the perfect solution, but it is a solution. I'd be like, I just want nothing at that point. So I'm actually fine with this.
Interesting. Okay. Well, speaking of
Yeah.
connected to it, then what are your thoughts on dual spec then? Because I've seen people go back and forth. Some people say it's it's good to have something taking money out of the game because it is a gold sink.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that as well? Because
So
I think I want them. I would love dual spec personally.
so I actually think I want I want dual spec, but in a specific way.
Okay, elaborate.
I don't want a dual spec that you can just swap between or exit raid swap between come back. I want a PvP spec and a PvE spec. I want like an arena spec or a battleground spec, right? I want one that you can only change into while you're in town and like you queue for battleground or something, right? Granted, that means you have to stay in town, but I'd rather have something where you load into a BG or a arena, and that's the spec you are now. And you can like preset it and stuff like that. So I wouldn't want something where you could like exit a raid, get summoned back into it, and have your spec changed, or just change your spec right there for raiding purposes. I feel like that would make raiding have a whole new level to it, where people are swapping specs for specific fights. That might be very interesting, but I think at the highest level, it's going to get really fucking tedious.
Yeah, it'll make it really messy
quickly.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people need the feeling of class identity. I think it's a problem right now in retail, is everybody swapping specs all the time, and you don't feel like I am a holy paladin. That is what I do. It's like, oh, you could be fucking right now. Like there's no barrier to change. So I think you want some class identity for yourself as you identify as a rogue player or a combat rogue, or you go PvP, or a dagger rogue, instead of swapping between them all the time for that character specifically. So that's kind of my feeling about it, is your character usually, especially right now, you don't feel like you play everything. You're like specialized in one or two areas of the possible specs. And I like that feeling. So I'd want dual spec in a way where there's PvP and PvE specs for you. So that's how I would want it.
So I mean, the argument has that I've heard from people against taking not having dual spec put into the game is that they don't want the gold sync removed. But honestly, when I think about it, I think about it that a lot of people who do respec right now already, that the gold sync is already in the game. A lot of people who do respec for PvP and PvE and such, they're not the people where the gold sync matters to them as much. They're the type of people who, if they need 50 gold, they take out their stash of 5 to 10 to 15,000 gold, and it doesn't even bother them at all. But whereas I think there's a penalty cost for gameplay, because a lot of the people who might want to PvP or they might want to do other things, they see the respec costs, and instead of getting hit by the gold sync, they just say, well, I'm just gonna log off and play a different game then. I don't want to bother with farming that extra little bit of gold. And yeah, sure, like maybe there might be a tiny bit of inflation, but at this stage, inflation is already kind of nutty. I think the sacrifice for a tiny bit of inflation is actually worth it for just general gameplay value. Having people that will actually stay online and play PvP with you just because they're not hindered by the fact they don't have dual spec.
Yeah, I completely agree. Right, I think that somebody said it in the chat that dual spec only hurts the people who don't have gold, not the big people. So it's the people who can't afford, or the having to respec all the time, the gold sync, right? Yeah. Only affects the people who don't have gold. The people who have gold will just be like, oh, yep, back and forth. So they would pay that price anyway, and it wouldn't really hit their gold at all. Like it's very negligible. So I like the idea of dual spec, but like I said, I want it in that specific way. I don't want it in the way where you can just swap back and forth for reasons that I just don't really want to have people not have that identity with their character. That's the thing for me. So
do you think they'll actually ever do it, or because I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think they'll do it, because I don't know if they would. So I don't think they'll do it because I think it takes too many development resources based on what they already have to do or implement what I want, because it would require them to allow you access to your talents or a second tree while you're in town or while you're in a battleground, and have different bars and stuff. And that's not tech that really existed with TBC. It does exist right now in retail, but they'd have to bring that over. It's kind of one of the reasons that like people are asking for, some people are asking for a faction change at the start. if they wanted to swap or play with their friends and like bring their character over. But I don't think they're going to do that because it takes too many resources, because that wasn't a thing until Wrath of the Lich King, and they'd have to go in and make sure that they can swap your character over and change all of your alliance items to horde items, your tabards and shit, which granted that all exists on retail, but it doesn't exist for some of the things that might have been removed from the game, etc. So I think it takes too many development resources for the nitty gritty parts of this, as opposed to give them both Seal of Blood, right? That's something that is different, doable, and it just requires adding an ability to this class on the other side. So I think that's I don't think they'll do it, because I think for TBC, I think the development resources are very small. They put most of their stuff in new content, like, you know, mythics and like all the stuff going on in retail. So Blizzard, I think, is forward thinking there. I don't think they're going to do like a faction change. Or
do you think
like
that's a mistake or not? The fact that they're allocating so much to retail over classic.
I don't know. Like, personally, I would love something like Classic Plus, even if it was just like a swing at trying new things. But the fact of the matter is, it's just too many development resources, and I think it's a mistake personally, because I would want Classic Plus, or I would want like TBC and then maybe something else at the end, right? Even if it's just like, I don't think if they released a new instance in Classic right now, people would be like, the game's ruined, right? Like, yeah. I don't think you can ruin Classic at this point. You could add something and say like, hey, this is an experiment, we're trying this out. People will love it or people will hate it, but regardless of what happens, you know, TBC's next. And so I feel like that's a time to take those risks. I think it's a mistake that they aren't allocating more resources, but I think it's a profit thing, right? Like,
yeah, it's like the safe play for them. Like why mess with what's going to be a cash cow for them, regardless of what they do?
Yeah, like think about how much work they had to put into Classic to actually like launch it. It was get servers, make sure that they're like good enough, stable, layering, all that stuff. You had to introduce that, and then you really didn't do anything hotfix here and there. Like, I'm sure the team that's devoted to Classic WoW is like very, very small. Like that I'm just going out on an assumption here that it's very small in terms of if they had to balance anything, update it. I don't know if they even have like a person dedicated to it at all, in terms of like, oh, this is the person who looks at like rogue shit. Absolutely not, right?
You know what infuriates me about how they've done the allocation for resources and things is that
but I mean, it's the same subscription, right? So you're paying for retail and you're paying for Classic with the same subscription. So if you are, you know, making Classic better is not really something that they need to do, because the people who are there for Classic are going to be there for Classic no matter what. You're not going to get like a bunch of those new people coming in. It's really interesting that like, if you devoted more resources, you wouldn't see more out, right? Yeah. You'd see the same amount of money, in my opinion.
I like, how many people are even using any of their retail? I'd be curious to see the stats on like what the breakdown is for people that Classic versus retail as far as subscriptions goes and such. But one of the things that's always infuriated me is the whole botting issue. Like, they've never done anything about the botting issue. And
really?
I mean, they do, but it's like there's some simple stuff that would cost them like to hire one guy at minimum wage to go around on each server and just ban the really obvious bots. Like, that would already be a quality of life change for a lot of servers, and they don't even do that. I don't understand. It seems to be like the simplest thing that they could do, and people would notice it like immediately.
But bots are clever. Like, bots are adaptive, the people who create them. If Black Lotus farming and like bots, and you're flying around as a GM and you're like trying to go to like Black Lotus spawns and stuff and like find people who are floating around or flying or underneath the world and stuff, they'll just adapt and they'll just go farm strat, or they'll go farm DM, right? Or a place where you can't go inside and you have to look at logs or like teleport
who rogue upper Black Rock, who rogue Black Rock depths.
All of them.
It just seems to be 60 rogues in Blackrock Depths right now, ungilded. Strange.
It's hard for them to get those things, in my opinion, without sure, you can look at like scripts and all that, but I think that Blizzard has a very tough situation with those types of things. There's very obvious botting, right? Then there's botting that, like, if you aren't getting some type of input on your side that as the server, and you go, well, this is obviously botting, like the inputs I'm getting, you end up in an area where like, we're not sure if they're botting or not. And I'll actually give an example, because one of my characters, my shaman, was actually banned for 3 days for buying gold, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was I boost on retail. I do RBG boosts for people, and I want classic gold. I don't give a shit about retail, right? So I actually had one of my clients say he would get me classic gold on Horde side on Fairlina, which I was like, that is really convenient in exchange for getting boosted, right? So I got like a little bit, and I saw that he was like legitimate. So I boosted him up, and then he sent me a bunch of gold, and I got banned. And apparently what happened was he went to a gold selling website and bought gold for my character. So I received...
Oh, you got it
gold.
directly from... Oh.
Yes. He put my character's name in and bought gold for me. And I got banned because of that. Because they don't know who bought the gold. I could get you banned by going to a gold website and buying gold for you.
Don't do that, guys. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't.
You legitimately can do that. And I talked to Blizzard about it, and they were like, so the fact of the matter is, you received dark gold, I guess is the term for it, is you received dark gold. Regardless of, whether or not it was something that,
Wait, they didn't reverse it?
No, they didn't reverse my ban.
Huh.
Because they can't tell if I'm the person who bought it or not.
Man,
right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they wouldn't know. Yeah,
how would you ever know? Right? How would you ever know that was the person that bought it? Right? So they didn't reverse my ban on my shaman for 3 days.
Jesus, did we just start a whole new griefing meta? Let's.
No, it legitimately is a way to get people banned for 3 days, and it's crazy. But it obviously it's going to cost a lot of money because he owed me 8,000 gold. So he sent me a bunch of gold. I was like, Jesus Christ. So yeah, it's like if you buy somebody an outrageous amount of gold, they will get banned, and the ban will not be overturned for the time. The guy said that like it wasn't the first case. He said this is the thing that this is the risk you take when you provide boosts for people, and it's just part of the risk that I take. And I was floored by it because I was like, well, I guess there's really no way for them to tell, because the way they do it is most gold sellers actually have like illegal or dark gold, and the way they do it is they mark the gold that leaves an account that gets stolen. So like, for example, if I hack you, log into your character, steal your 50 gold, steal the 50 gold, and I say, and
that'd
I
be the saddest hacker. Man, I got this guy. Let's check his bank. Oh no, 50 gold.
So I DE all your shit or whatever, and I send all the gold to a different character. When you log back on, you report that your stuff was stolen. They don't get rid of all the shit in my inventory that got sent to that character. They mark it as dark gold, and then they monitor where it goes. So they actually don't ban gold sellers. They ban gold buyers.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is
I
really
know way back in the day, they never used to ban it. And then at one point in time, I think it was around TBC or something, I started hearing about people getting banned for buying gold. Yeah. But because back at the start, they just bought and no one ever got banned. It was always the sellers that got hit. And at some point, they switched that and they started banning the buyers as well.
Yep. It's kind of like, I think it's prostitution in Canada, where it's not illegal to be a prostitute, but it is illegal to buy prostitution services. So it's like, it's not illegal to provide it, but it is illegal to purchase. So it's like it's illegal to buy the gold, and that's what they really crack down on, because you have to crack down on the market, because then there's no reason to sell if nobody's buying, right? That's kind of how it goes. Supply and demand thing. If you hit the demand, then the supply will whittle. Instead of hitting the supply, the demand will always be there. So somebody will do it and provide it.
Man, that's messed up. I just thinking about it, because I have been banned before on in other games. They banned the sorry, so I was answering somebody else. They banned the shaman, so all of my accounts are tied to my same bnet, but I have 4 accounts in there. They banned only the shaman's account, so all of my other ones were accessible. I actually thought I was going to miss the speedrun that we had, which was our record one, because of that. So I was banned. I got the email. I talked to them and stuff, and then I tried to log in, and only my shaman was banned. So all my other accounts were fine, but I was like, okay, it wasn't an account-wide ban. It was just that one login was banned. It was really interesting. Because I have been banned on this similar thing happened to me, but not in WoW actually. In Aeon Online, they had massive issues with bots and gold selling back when Aeon Online first launched. Another MMO for people that don't know. I got banned because I was one of the officers in the guild, and like you, I just received this sketchy gold because we were gathering gold for some guild event or something, and then they just hit me with a ban. But Aeon Online did unban me, so I guess Aeon Online went over the path of we'll just trust the person that's putting in the ticket that they didn't do this, even though it's really hard to prove. But they did unban me, in the end. So it's interesting. Blizzard's gone the other path.
What's really interesting is the person who answered my email was a European game master, so he was hard on my American ass, dude. I was like,
what is that, by the way, with the EU NA thing? Like sometimes when I'm talking to people about like an NA side of things, they're like, oh yeah, but they're NA players, man. That's understandable. Just
oh yeah, dude. We're a bit special over here. Like NA players, we're a bit yikes sometimes, you know. That's why we have to say we're number 1 in North America, not like number 4 overall, and like 4 minutes behind the next highest person. So you know. Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, this ties into the WoW token. Well, what are your thoughts on the WoW token? Yes or no in adding it?
So the way that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've actually not really used the WoW token system ever. You pay money for a WoW token, you put it on the auction house, and it just gives you gold. Right.
Yeah. So, it basically becomes like a store of value. You can exchange it for game time, basically. I'm not sure. Is it like 30 days game time? I think something. Like that.
I think it's 30 days game time. You buy it, and then you can exchange it to a player for something, or give it to them for gold. You give it to auction house or whatever, and the price of it goes up and down based on the number of coins, I believe. So it's like stonks.
Yeah.
So yeah. I know that China has the classic one.
Yeah. China already has WoW tokens. I think
China has
I
WoW
saw it
tokens
on
in
Wowhead.
Classic. Yeah. China has WoW tokens in Classic, because I don't think it's illegal to sell gold there or something. I don't know if there's like some law or whatever, but you definitely want to operate in China as a big business, because they actually bring a lot of money, and that's one of the reasons that there's so many people on the Chinese servers that are so rich, right? You can actually spend
the noobs run with 5,000 Gressels, hungering coals.
Yeah, it was just, which is actually like a really interesting point, because like for me, I don't really like WoW tokens, but I think that it makes it a little bit like pay to win kind of thing if you do feel like there's a. I think for Blizzard, it helps them with like it increases your profits. And it means you don't have to care about gold buyers and sellers, right? You kind of just do that yourself. In fact, it's just like you make it so other people can't make money off of your game. So you only care about gold buyers, and you don't have to care about sellers anymore. Yeah. And the buyers just buy your thing. So I think it totally fixes that. But I just don't like the idea that spending a lot of money can just get you ahead. Which really hot take from someone in my chat the other day that still sticks with me. Is they were like, I know people aren't going to agree with this, but my philosophy is if you're rich in real life, you deserve to be rich in the game. And I was like,
huh. Really? That's an interesting take.
They were like, yeah, if I'm rich in real life and I've worked hard and I like have all this money, I should be able to like have to spend less time than other people because I've already put time in other places. And I was like, really? And it's like, because money's supposed to represent, and when you're rich, it's supposed to be representative of you've done something for people, or you've, contributed in some way, shape, or form. Not always the case, but that's what money is supposed to indicate, is your services are good. And they were like, yeah, if I'm rich in real life, I deserve to be rich in game. And I was like, I understand that like at a base part of me says like I wish games are equal, and I think that's the beauty of games is you're on equal footing. Yeah. But I was like, that's not like a hard rule for games. That's my rule for how I want games to be. Because there's pay to win in like China and all those places. I've played some pay to win games myself. I've never paid for them, but it's like there are people who play those games.
Yeah. And I mean the
roll all the time, right?
GDKPs come from Korea. At the start, GDKPs are the main form of loot system in Korean MMO RPGs. They are the guys that really took forward and started the whole GDKP movement. Really, it's interesting. It seems in Asian countries it's more predominant, the whole gold for items thing.
Yeah, well, a lot more. God, but yeah, for WoW tokens, I think they solve a problem and they make it more accessible. And I don't like it when it becomes overwhelming, but if it's an option, I think it's a good option. So like, I don't like them, but I think that the game is better with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. So
Yeah.
I've got a I guess my take is a little bit different from people because I played EverQuest and I've did you ever play EverQuest, Irene, or?
I did not.
Okay, so to give people a bit of a history of gold buying and gold selling and such, EverQuest was the first one that really got the ball going as far as MMO buying and selling gold and such. So a lot of people don't know, but even to this day, Wowhead and a lot of the sites that you like to use are owned by conglomerates that were at one point, I'm not sure if they still are, but they were at one point owned by the biggest gold sellers on the internet. So back in the day, so this is how gold started in EverQuest, which translated into WoW, because WoW's now, I think, the biggest cash cow as well. In EverQuest, it started by two guys, IGE and mysupersales.com, two competitors. And they went around and started buying every single class website and every single popular website and just plastering the ads all over it. And at some point, Sony, which owned EverQuest at the time, tried to stop it. But at that point, all the most popular sites for their game were owned by the gold sellers. So at that point, how do you stop them when all your traffic is coming by properties owned by the gold sellers? And there's a whole crazy history. If anyone's curious at home, you can Google Jonathan Yantis and IGE and My Super Sales. There's a crazy backstory behind that. Those guys made millions and millions and upon millions of dollars. I think last I heard, he got bought out for like 25 million, 1 million a month or something. Is Jonathan Yantis's website.
Wow.
But it's kind of crazy. And then they transitioned into EverQuest, into WoW from EverQuest. And from that point onwards, they have been, and they still are, I think, the biggest gold sellers online. And Wowhead to this day is still owned by the conglomerate that owns IGE and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of people don't know, but that's an interesting side fact. But in EverQuest, tokens are completely normal. So tokens are completely normal. And honestly, it hasn't ruined the game. There's a lot of doom talk when people say WoW tokens are going to destroy everything in the world. But I've experienced it in EverQuest where it didn't really destroy the world. All it really did was that instead of people keeping their money in lotuses or keeping their income in something else, they swapped to whatever the token was as the store of value. Because the tokens seem to inflate with the age of the servers. So, and for people that don't know, WoW Classic is being run by the same person that ran EverQuest at this moment of time. So Holly Longdale actually was the lead for EverQuest. And this is why we're seeing a lot of changes that are copying over to WoW. So progression servers are being called progression servers. EverQuest did that a few years ago already. I played on the most popular EverQuest Classic server. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and they did at this stage. WoW is just copying a lot of things just straight off the Holly Longdale EverQuest playbook, and so I honestly think WoW tokens are inevitable. I think they're gonna put them in. I think it's not gonna be as big a deal as people think. People think it's all doom, but I think it's not gonna. It will be some inflation, but I don't think it's like the end of the world like some people seem to think it is.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I don't like them, but I do think the game is better with them because I think it solves some of the problems without introducing too many more, and it just makes the company have more money. And I'm a fan of like giving a company money if they are like a company that I want to support that has a good game, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, the side note as well is that it's core already. A lot of it is already introduced into the game through GDKPs and such. Mm-hmm. So at this point, we've already. I feel like we already have like 90% of the bad side effects of the WoW token through GDKPs and everything else. So I don't I don't really love the WoW token. I don't feel like we have 90% of the bad sides. We must as well just have the WoW token at this point. It's not gonna kill the game.
I actually agree. Like, I just
don't like it. Yeah, it feels bad, right? It's just that it feels bad, but
yeah. It feels bad, but it's not. You know, it's
but I mean, speaking of pay to win, level 58 boosts. What are your take on this? Because I know Stay Safe has been on a crusade to end the 58 boost. What's your thoughts on this?
Okay, so first off, just talk to me about the 58 boost really quickly so I can fully understand it. Like,
Okay.
because
So the 58 boost is you will be able to buy one per account. They said so. It is limited, one per account. You can buy a level 58 boost. It'll boost up your character. It's not going to apply to Draenei's or Blood Elves, so you can't do it with any of the new characters. But you can. It's a catch-up mechanic essentially. They're putting in for people that are coming back into the game, like my friend Bob, who might not have played Classic, wants to play TBC. He doesn't want to go through the leveling process, so he's gonna buy a 58 boost. And the argument against it is that it's going to destroy the economy. People are going to have trade skill bots and other things like that. So, what are your thoughts?
it's going to destroy the economy. People already have fucking alts. Like, I don't think that's a problem. Like, the 58 boost to me is just allowing people. It's like, it's not gatekeeping people. Like, I would rather be able to play TBC, have healthy TBC servers, and like you said, it's a one-time boost, so it's not like people are going to like keep doing this all the time, and they have to buy new accounts and stuff too, right? But people are already doing that, and they're already leveling alts, and they're already getting trade skill alts to like the level like 20 or whatever, and then maxing professions. And that's why you like Arcanite transmutes all the time. Like, how is that a problem? That's not a problem. In fact, the only problem I see with this is like the primary use for it, which would be like getting Blood Elves, Paladins, Shamans up, would be that, just getting those instantly up. That's the only problem I would see with it, and that's removed. So I actually have no problem with this at all. I think that
Interesting. I thought you would disagree with me on this one.
No,
because like I'm
no problem
like
with this.
By far a lot of people hate the 58 boost. They can't stand it. But I'm actually with you on this one. I'm perfectly okay with the 58 boost because look, here's the thing, guys. Again, this is going to go back to EverQuest because look, EverQuest is WoW's going to mimic a lot of things in EverQuest going forward because Holly Longdale is the lead of WoW Classic, and she came from as the lead of EverQuest Classic. So this is what happened in EverQuest. And you talked about health of the game. This is what happened. I was the officer for the largest West Coast guild in EverQuest on the most popular server of all time. And after a certain point in the game, as more expansions come out, you see a decline in the lower end base of people leveling up. So you don't see people doing dungeons, and people in Classic already experience this where if you make a new character now, have fun trying to find a group for dungeons and things like that.
Now you're good because
like right now,
like a month or two ago.
But I mean that hype's again, the hype's back, but it's gonna die again at some point, and the low population disappears again. And the big problem comes when people want to play, but playing WoW requires them to commit to, like, okay, I'm gonna need to grind for 2 weeks and do this and this, and they log in and there's no one, and they rely on their friends to help level them up. Or like the way it worked in EverQuest is because there was no one left in the low end game, everyone was just like max level, and everyone that wasn't max level would just boost themselves up. Was you would literally have to recruit by advertising that you would boost a new person up. And the only people that ever survived that were really hardcore players because it's a hard sell to tell like your friend that, okay, you can play with me, but you're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to log in together for multiple nights and a week maybe, and we're gonna have to boost you up. You're gonna have to sit there AFK. It's a really hard sell because I think a lot of people don't look at this from the non-hardcore perspective. Like a hardcore guy's like, yeah, sure, we'll just knock that out in a week. But the average guy that isn't going to do that, and the average guy that makes the game feel alive because there's a good population base, they're not going to sit through that. And it's better to get started. Like, I know people hate the boost, but it's better to try to address the problem early rather than leaving it too late. Where it got to the stage in EverQuest was really bad. I think maybe half the server quit at one point because we couldn't get fresh recruits. The server just started flat out dying. So yeah, I mean that's why I think the boosts are fine.
I'd like to hear like somebody who disagrees with this. There's a guy in chat, Villain Like Doom, says that boosts are worse than tokens. I actually want to, like, if he's still there, I want to hear his take on it and why, because we're both for this. So I want somebody who disagrees. But while he types that up, if he's still there, I think that, like, I have no problem with it. Like you said, like, we definitely agree here. I think people are going to get the service anyway. Somebody's saying that boosts aren't an issue as it's already in game due to the boost meta, but it's just Blizzard taking over. I don't see that as a problem, really. They're just providing a service that is really annoying. They're providing a better service in the game that people are trying to get anyway, and spend a lot of time just logged in. It's just really gate kept. I feel like it's a waste of time. It's kind of like everybody asks for, why don't we just have world buffs drop like China servers every hour, right? That was the solution for China. They never did it for us. But it's just something that happens in the game that's annoying. People reset the head anyway. Might as well just allow it to drop all the time. So I just think having those things be more accessible is always going to be a good thing. It's going to attract more players. It's going to have a healthy population. And what you're saying right now is actually funny, because I remember back in the day, there was a solution that they had for this with bad populations on servers, was if you rolled on a server that had a bad population for your faction, you had double experience. So if you rolled Alliance on a dead Alliance server, it was 100% EXP increase. I don't know if it was exactly 100, but there was a big boost to your experience. And I think that's one of those things that they introduced later on for things that have like bad faction imbalance, to incentivize people to even that out on servers. But
okay, well,
we'll see what happens. I don't think it's a problem, though.
As far as the negative side of things, so I think most people that don't want to boost kind of come from the stay safe's point of view, where they think it's going to be really detrimental for the economy. It's going to trivialize a lot of things with leveling and such. But look, there are definitely negatives in that. Look, there will be more people who, like, okay, so villain boost here, he's saying it's going to invalidate most of the actual game. People won't learn their class while leveling. Boost create easy bots for farmers. It makes it easy to grieve characters with no consequences. So all those things are legitimate concerns in some way, some more so than others. Because for sure, bot farmers, people are just gonna have a 58 boost. For example, I'll probably use a 58 boost to level maybe a druid gathering out or something like that. But for me, it's like the negatives do not outweigh the positives. For me, when I look at boost, I look at the equation of, look, would you rather your server dies earlier, or would you rather deal with the fact that some people are gonna boost characters for farming, and maybe you're gonna have a few more boomkins that don't know what they're doing, right? Like,
I mean, you already do.
Yeah, like... I would rather have a bigger population, more people to recruit, a healthy, busy population, and deal with like some of those little side effects. Then
more people to take arena rating from, you know, like that's like, if you don't know how to play your class, that's great for me, man. Like I don't really care if people don't know how to play their class. That's their problem. Like they won't be in my raid, but it's kind of like, is that a big deal? Maybe it's a little annoying when you run into them in like a dungeon or something.
I mean, some of the best
leveling,
the best times you will have in WoW are playing with someone that has no idea what they're doing. For me, that's part of the MMO experience. Is those scuffed moments when the guy goes and pulls, and you tell the guy to please wait for mana, and he keeps pulling, and then he wipes your whole raid, and that's part of the game for me. For me, that those parts of the game are just as much as playing with super highly skilled players all the time.
Yeah, like some people are making points about like botters aren't going to use it anyway. I think it has no effect on the economy. But let's see, it boosts invalidate most of the actual game. I think the actual game's mostly in TBC, and that's the point, is they're trying to focus on TBC. People won't learn their class while leveling. You'll learn it from 58 to 70.
So it's not like a full boost. It's not like you're boosting all the way to 70.
Boost create easy bots for farmers. Don't think that's necessarily true. I think it just allows people who are not buying from like farmers and stuff like that to have access to like another alt. But right now, people boost up alts anyway, because there's like, they finish the content, there's nothing to do, and then like, what do? You raid log right now. I think in TBC, it's going to be more people are going to be active during the week because they won't be raid logging. The hardcore players won't. People will be playing in arenas. There's going to be more people out there in the world. So I don't think it's going to be a problem at all, honestly. Like, and you can easily make grief characters with no consequence. I mean, I have a shaman that's 60. It's like you can on my own server.
For
like,
anyone that wants to experience, if you want to experience true griefing, don't forget to roll on fire more, guys. As someone in progress, I can tell you the griefers are there if you want to experience true griefing and those guys. They don't even let you farm sandworm meat. I got stream sniped farming sandworm meat the other day. Interesting takes, but yes.
It looks really bad from his point of view. I don't know. I think it's only a good thing, because if I'm trying to get my friend to play, like I have a few friends who are, I have friends who are going to play TBC who aren't playing Classic, and it's going to allow like more streamers to play right off the bat. It's going to allow everybody to fucking get in on the hype. Sure, maybe that sucks for a bit, but it's going to be more players, and I want more players playing the game. Like, that's just how it is at the end of the day. Is I just want more people playing the game. It's more people to play against an arena, in BGs, in just even raid with, right? I just want more people to play the game. And I think that this only adds to that. So my ultimate goal is, more players. I think this is a good step towards that, personally. I think this doesn't gatekeep the game at all. I think it makes it really easy for people to pick it up who didn't play Classic. And that's a big problem with expansions, is people come in and they feel overwhelmed, right?
Yeah,
They
exactly. I mean, this is why both you and me
don't
don't really play retail that much. It's like, I don't want to catch up. I just don't want to catch up.
I mean, the only thing with retail is like, I log in and play. Like, I'm leveling a demon hunter right now because like I'm like 224 or 226 item level on my paladin. I'm like, I log in and I do Torghast, I PvP, do RBG boost, and I'm just done. Like, there's nothing to get right now. Like, maybe I could do like some mythics or something and try like progression there, but that's just, I don't know. That stuff isn't interesting to me. I like having.
So
like,
I mean, one of the solutions, I think it was StaySafe that brought this up, is that just bring back the recruit a friend bonus, and that's going to be the solution to help new players. But the problem with that is it doesn't solve the key issue, which is you're still going to have to log in. Yeah, you still have to log in with your friend. You still have to like
everyone
be
in
there.
chat, dude. What if I have no friends? What if I'm one of the guys in chat? Like.
Well, if you're one of the guys that greased me farming sandworm meat on Silithus, those guys clearly have no friends.
Yeah, looking for, the boost is only helping you guys. I don't know why you're against. For the little stuff, cooking, bag space, farming, etc. These are slippery slopes that take away the little stuff. See, that's the thing, is I think that's exactly what it is a slippery slope, where I'm like, that's just not going to happen. You're still going to do the little stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I think in Classic WoW, I remember very, very little from my time leveling, and it's all been playing at 60, right? Like, very, very little from leveling. All I remember is being a rogue and not like, nobody wanted to group with me because rogues offer nothing to the group. So I'm like running around Tenaris looking for a ZF group, sitting there going, why is this a mage meta? Like, everybody just wants mages for like 4 mages blizzarding or something. Yeah. So I don't remember shit from leveling. I remember being in the Devil Sword Mafia when I hit 60 and camping on Goro Crater, right? I remember that shit.
I remember being rejected from a lot of spell cleave groups that wouldn't take a rogue, so I had to solo quest.
Yeah, that's why you get a mallet for ZF. Yeah, exactly. See, it's like you have to have something that you bring to the table. You got to get your ring for Ubers somehow. But I think it's honestly back in the creators. Yeah, Octobers. I pulled him into the creators. That's the stuff that I remember. I don't remember leveling. I remember like Octobers finding me when I wasn't 60, and then like finishing the last levels together.
I mean, I do enjoy some of the leveling process. I think for me, when I think of MMOs, for me, a fond memory every time is the new expansion launches. I'm there with my buddies. I've got my pizza, I've got my Coke prepared, I got my poop sock ready, and we're gonna go grind some dungeons, we're gonna go quest, we're gonna stay up for maybe 24 hours, and that's for me, that's what I want from the leveling process. And I would feel bad that I have friends who want to come back, and if there's no boost, they would not come back. 100%, they would not come back. And for me, it just opens up the game to more people. And
like right now, and so it opens up the game to more people. I think that the game is changing enough right now too, that what's going to happen is people are going to boost up a new character, and like they're swapping classes. Like, a lot of people in my guild are re-rolling because they're warriors, right? They're already getting boosted in Mara right now. They're warlocks, they're hunters, they're mage. Like, they're all getting boosted in Mara literally as we speak, and they're already rolling a new character. And what'll happen is the people like me, who, what am I going to use my 58 boost on? I have 2 warriors, a shaman, a rogue, and a paladin, right? And I'm sitting there going, well, what am I going to use it on? I actually don't know, but it is going to be something that I go like, you know what? This turned out to be good. I'm going to enjoy raiding on this. but it gives me a chance to do that and feel like it's way more accessible, or swap, right? If you find that you're like, I'm not really feeling rogue anymore, it gives you a chance to be like, you know what? I'm just going to have a warrior now, right? And you just swap.
Or you can't get a raid slot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's completely fine. I think it just makes something that's already in the game a lot cheaper and more accessible to people who are already paying for things. So I think it's completely fine. I have no issues with it.
Well, I mean, I see it from both sides of things as well. In that, again, I play in both like a hardcore guild and a non-hardcore guild. So I see like in progress, I'm used to like everyone who's hardcore. They're already boosting like 5,000, 60s. They're all prepped. They're all good to go. The hardcores are good, and it's the casuals that get impacted more. That they get hurt by.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He's like, players boosting for gold is different from pay to win. So here's the thing that I don't have an issue with it, because it's the same money at the end of the day. For example, how much is the boost going to cost is like what people, it was like, how much?
People are saying what, like 50, 60, something like that. I don't know if there's an official number, but those were just like rough numbers people were putting out.
60? Okay. If it's 60, then here's what you do. You go in, you play retail, or if there is tokens or something like that, you grind enough gold to buy 4 of them. You use all 4 of them for your game time, and then you don't pay $60 in the next 4 months, and you buy a character boost. Problem solved. You would have paid $60 over 4 months anyway. You ground in game. Boom, there you go. Like, there's a way to access the boost via doing something that pays for your subscription and then saving that money instead and then just putting it back in the game. So there's a way to grind in game to get that boost, right? In a sense, if they introduce the classic token, but you can still do that in retail because it's the same account, right? If they do classic token, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just do it in retail. Yeah. So that's what I'm just thinking. You're going to spend that money anyway, and then each classic token is basically worth 15. So if that happens, but
yeah, okay.
Even if it doesn't happen, like I said, retail has it, and you can totally do it there.
I'm curious to see what the YouTube comments.
Logic.
I'm curious to see the YouTube comments for this one. I think it's a controversial topic, really controversial topic, even though we both agree on that one. But I
don't see a problem.
I mean, moving on. Let's probably not spend an hour ranting at everyone about Boost. But what do you think about the TBC launch timing? Because
good lord,
I'm scared because it's kind of getting delayed. It looks like.
Well, I'm just gonna say I think that Blizzard has been pretty shit with their launch timing recently. Whether it was Shadowlands being delayed, and then being released about the same time as Nax, that was real mean. Like it became really hard to raid Nax, and I had a few people, like some of my best people, actually quit and go play retail and then came back like a few weeks later, but not all of them. So it's like, I think that if they're going to release it, I don't think they can release it at the same time as like the next patch for retail that's coming out with the new instance and stuff. Like, if you're going to do it, like, please delay it. Like, one of the two, please. So I'd rather they just like release the retail thing and then they release TBC after that. I just hope it's, I don't hope it's soon. I hope it's in like.
Well, what do you think is the ideal timing? Like from now, like how many months would you think is the ideal timing?
I would say ideally ideal time, I want to say May 21st.
May 21st. Wait, what's on May 21st?
It's just 2.5 weeks away, and it's a Friday, so.
Okay.
I'd want to release on a Friday, so I have on the weekend, I don't think they'd do that, but still.
Do you think they're actually going to hit the May window? Because it feels like, because they have, that was the speculation, the rumors and such for the leak launch date, was I think it was a May launch window, but it feels like they haven't announced beta. It feels like because they haven't given us any date, the entire BlizzCon thing was just 2021. It didn't have any months or any dates or anything. It feels like it might be delayed. A lot of people are thinking 5+ months maybe for waiting for TBC.
5+, huh?
Yeah. Well, I guess 5+ from when people were predicting. So like 4 to 5 months now.
I'm not sure. people say like, it's in the very far future, but I just think that the way that they've been going about like things like Nax, where Nax released a bit sooner than people thought it would as well. I just think they're kind of doing things in 5 to 6 months in terms of the content that they release for their classic game. Seems to be like a good timeline. Like when it first came out, Blackwing Lair didn't come out until like when BWL come out. It came out like March. When did BWL come out? Or was that beforehand? I can just go to Warcraft Logs and look at like a first raid or something, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Am I lagging?
Seems fine to me. Yeah. So I mean, for me, as far as the launch time, I can give a bit of perspective. Look, Holly Longdale is the lead now for WoW Classic, from what I understand. At least she's one of the leads, if she's not the lead. And she came from EverQuest, and I hope she learned something from what happened in EverQuest, because we had a window. People are talking about. There's comments in the chat now saying raiding Nax for the next 5+ months. Yeah, when you have the same content out for a really, really, really long period of time, I know people want to get their full bis and such, but there's a point you hit where there's massive decay in population, where people are just, I can't do this anymore, guys. I can't log in and raid Nax again for the 500 billionth time. I'm over it, and then they just don't log in anymore. So that's kind of the scary thing, is that if you delay for too long, you can see massive population decline. The biggest drop in the most popular EverQuest Classic server of all time was when we had the longest period of time in between new raid content. I think it was like 6 months. 6 months, and it hit it where people just, nah, I can't do it, guys. We've been doing this for too long. I'm done. Or they do the popular thing where they say, hey guys, yeah, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back when the new content comes out. And you just never see them again. They're just gone. But yeah, did you find out the dates?
Hold on. It's lagging for me a bunch. I think something on my end, but I have it at, like phase 2 ending around February and phase 3 starting somewhere in March. So.
Yeah, well,
the exact Warcraft logs.
I mean, pre-patch is a thing as well. So I really hope that pre-patch helps. Like if it's going to be delayed for another 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it is, I hope that pre-patch comes in between somewhere there and spices it up, because otherwise it's going to be bad. It's going to be pretty bad. But I think that's the plan. At least I hope that's the plan. I feel like Holly saw, she's experienced it in EverQuest. I feel like she shouldn't make the same mistake twice. I feel like she should know at this point.
Yeah, I think when that type of thing happens, then yeah, you'll obviously, like, if you get another chance, it's not going to happen again type thing. So I completely agree with that. I think it's in good hands. Pre-patch speedruns would be pretty pog. That's something that I'm like,
it's going to be a cluster. It's going to be such a cluster. I'm not looking forward to that.
I feel like that's a whole new category of like, because frankly, Horde is just going to be faster at that point. If that happens. Because they'll have shamans, they'll have a good shaman population, and you want 8 shamans per group anyway. They just have to add 3 paladins to their raid somehow, right? And they'll cut like priests or something. So for them, it'd be having King, Salve, and Might, and plus everything else that they got, and having a good shaman population for Wind Fury in every group. It'd be harder for the Alliance to gear up 8 shamans to really actually compete. So. That's the thing I'm worried about, is if that happens, speedruns would not be Alliance dominated at the very end.
I mean, we can talk about speedruns. Speaking of speedruns, do you think it's going to be popular in... Here's the thing that worries me about speedruns in TBC, is that right now we have the meta for Classic where Dark Moon Fair comes around and everyone's doing their speedrun. That's when the player base looks towards the speedrun community and says, okay, this is when new meta is going to come. This is when everyone's going to have new things coming. But without the Dark Moon Fair limitation, speedruns are just going to be like, it's just the record's going to be broken all the time. People are just going to, okay, well, it's our guild's turn. We're going to do it now. Do you think there's going to be, I guess, lack of interest after a while? People are going to get so used to seeing speedrun things broken down constantly that they're just we're gonna go watch Arena now instead, because we're kind of over it.
Yeah, I actually think that is a small concern because uh, you're talking about scarcity and where you can't speedrun all the time, and there's stakes. Like that's one of the things I love about classic WoW is world buffs. They're hard to get. You get them. There's stakes. Sure, it might make me upset, but that's what makes me love the game. It's Dark Souls-esque, where you die, you lose your souls. Right? There's stakes to that. You die, it's not very forgiving at all. And then as games get easier and easier, you're like, I die and there's nothing's wrong. Like you just go again, right? So I like some risk. I like losing things in games and feeling like I have to play well to like. There's a way to kind of just like, I guess surviving is a skill, right? Surviving is a skill. Saving other people is a skill, and I like having that be something that is desired in the game. So I like that. I like world buffs and things like that. But the speed running meta, I think, will be impacted because of the lack of scarcity and kind of celebration around the circus, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So you're saying it's not limited by the circus? Is the buff removed in TBC?
Well, that's the question. Is that's a whole nother question. It's like we know most of the world buffs are impacted, but we don't know if Darkmoon Fair is necessarily included. I would assume it's included, but obviously we haven't tested. We don't have TBC. It's in question.
It was still a thing back then, to my memory, is you still had the fair come. It would be outside Shatrath. And there was another buff, though. It was Hellscream's War Song, which is a Nagrand full War Chief's Blessing for an hour.
The Grand Buff, yeah. There's been a little bit of talk about that as well. So, I mean, that's a whole nother topic, is that do you think they would change things? Because the player base has already complained a lot about world buffs. Do you think they would, if DMF and the Grand Buff and such are still in there, do you think they would remove them to kind of even the field completely and just say no world buffs, guys, at all? Because I'm not sure what they do there, but I feel like they might, because it seems they're doing some changes at this point, and they did the leatherworking change, or they're talking about doing the leatherworking change.
I think that they should still allow the world buffs, like Darkmoon Fair and when War Chiefs, a Hellscream or the Hellscream's War Song, but it would just be zone wide and it'd be for Alliance too, so you don't have to do like some mind control shit. Because as much as I hate all that stuff, like I still think that world buffs are healthy for the competitive side of the game. If there's not that many world buffs, okay, maybe there's less time you have to gather them and everything, but I for some reason just still really like them. I think, like, sure, maybe it makes the content a little trivial at some points, but it does allow stuff to it does allow people to. Sorry, I was just reading that Hellscream put on the only person completes quest. No, it's not. It's zone wide. But at the end of the day, I like world buffs. I actually think that they should allow them to some extent, maybe less, right? But I like them. I think if you are somebody who hates world buffs,
maybe if they're not
guilds,
dispellable, maybe they make not dispellable, or you can't something
it's
to stop the griefing a little bit.
But I'm trying to hear
or do you like the griefing?
I like the griefing. I think it keeps the game alive in a sense, right? There's some risk to it. Otherwise, people go roll on PvE servers and just do that there, and then they can opt out of it, right? So I think that, even though I don't grief myself, I still think that being griefed is something that people are allowed to enjoy, or griefing is something they're allowed to enjoy. So me being griefed is exactly. I think it's a totally fair game. But I'm trying to get to like the essence of my point here. Is like, the people who hate world buffs are people who either feel like it's a necessity because they want to compete, but the people who want to compete are going to get the world buffs anyway, right? Where it's like they're just going to min-max stuff. It's just one of the parts of min-maxing. So if you're one of the people who really, really cares about competing, you're just going to get them because you got it, right? And it actually makes your character stronger. It makes things a lot more fun. If you play a warrior, you completely understand. Sure, it's a chore and it takes a long time, but if that was minimized and then you still lost them on death, like, I think that's completely fair game. But I like world buffs. I think they're good for the game. As much as I hate getting all of them, I still think they're good for the game.
I mean, it's
the competitive side of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing you brought up, because I've talked about this with my chat in the past before, in that
the raid logging is a bad thing. That's the only thing. Just make them easy to get.
The raid logging and like the hardcore aspects of WoW. I think someone in the chat said, like, we hate the world buffs right now, but we're gonna look back at at it as one of these fond memories of Classic. It's kind of like how people never want to experience the ranking meta again. But we're gonna look back at it. It's one of those things where you're gonna be drinking with your friends and you're gonna say, "Hey guys, remember that time when we didn't sleep for 3 months and we did rank 14?" It's like one of those weird things where
Remember the bracket breaker?
yeah, those things you look back at them really fondly, but at the time they're also very unenjoyable in certain aspects. And I think it's this tricky balance in MMOs to find that balance of how do you balance that hardcore element that people like, but not make it so bad that it turns people off and you lose too much of your audience that you can't have a sustainable game. I mean, if anyone can ever solve that, then they've got the perfect MMO. So I don't know if anyone's ever solved that incomplete yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I feel like if you only allow, like, there's only like 2 world buffs or something, and they're relatively easy to get, I still think that means if you die, you lose a substantial amount of power. So staying alive in like longer runs is important. But I think it incentivizes people to not raid log the entire time. So if there's only like 2 world buffs that are relatively easy to get and they go out pretty consistently, or you could get them really consistently and you don't have to raid log with like 6 or 7 world buffs, then I think that's just a win personally. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
The question is though, would you enjoy world buffs as much if you were on Fire Mode server, home of WCB Horde only?
No, I saw that video today, the new one. Oh man, do you see the new one?
Yeah. Hey, I have to say, guys, WCB guys, if you're watching this, good work on the editing. You improved. I think it was better than the last one. I think you guys took a step up. Congrats. Please don't stop me, guys. I want my WCB buff.
Yeah. Yeah, I judge a video based on how many memes per second it has, and that one was pretty good. High meme per second quota for me. I was entertained.
So let's talk progression and vanilla forever servers. So they broke it down where they said they're gonna go into TBC. So the servers we're on now are gonna continue on and go into TBC. And then if you want to continue in Classic, you're gonna have Classic servers, but you're going to have to either pick one or the other. But if you want to do both, you're gonna have to pay to copy your character over to a Classic realm. What are your thoughts on this? Because from my point, I think almost everyone seems to agree here is that it seems to be a bit of a cash grab to force people to pay, because almost everyone is going to want to have that option to have the Classic character. It feels like that should be included as part of the deal.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, my gut is telling me that my gut's telling me I'm going to sit there and be like, nobody's actually going to just play vanilla forever. But at the same time, I'm like, well, Classic servers did exist, and like Salad Bakers and like other private server guilds still played private servers because retail is just so much of a far shot away. It's so far removed. I think the problem here is like TBC is not removed that much from Classic. So I don't think it's going to be that popular. And I think this is almost like out of necessity to have both. Because they don't want to neglect the vanilla community that still wants to play it. And they're kind of just saying, like, what's the worst that could happen here, right? So, like, what are their options? They either do both, and they allow you to copy. Do both allow you to copy for free, right? Which is probably what I think they should do. Or, like, only allow one TBC, and then there's no vanilla servers, right? I think that would upset more people. I think people having the option is good. The fact they had to pay for it, I don't really like that if it's a paid thing. So I don't like that. Yeah. Like I said, I like games having a good population to sustain it, which means you're going to play it and like you'll pay for your subscription longer. I think that like you said, cash grab is there, and that's the disheartening thing. But I think that vanilla forever servers are more likely to have a good population and be larger if it's free, which is not a bad thing.
That's true. I didn't even think about the population issue. Because again, speaking back on my EverQuest experience, there's a lot of parallels just because, guys, we have the same person in the lead doing both now. They did try to have one expansion forever servers in the EverQuest Classics things, and it became very, very, very top heavy. Sustaining a population was really tough. They're still alive. I think the server's still alive, but it got more and more dead as things went on because what it became was people would get a character to full bis and then like check that box and then stop. and then you have to find someone else who's going through that process, and the decay was a lot, and it gets super super top end. I think
it's happening right now, right?
Yeah, I think like it is a good point. It is the paying to do it might have issues with the population.
Yeah. And I just think it's a win if they get people engaging, playing their game more, right? So
yeah,
that's all I think.
Okay.
I'm always gonna favor that type of thing, and I don't know. I just think that I didn't like the vanilla forever servers, but I guess allowing the option without it limiting your TBC population is an okay thing. We'll see which one sticks, though.
Yeah, because I mean, the danger is dividing the population too much at times as well.
Yeah, that's called cannibalizing your own game, which is something you don't want to do as a developer. It's the reason that in League of Legends you don't have Earth all the time. It's the reason you don't have all the special game modes all the time. It's the reason that 3v3 is gone, is because the queue times for normals, for 5v5, all that stuff goes up the more game modes you have, because you're taking the same population, you're dividing them amongst different queues. So if you have like 4 fucking game modes and you reduce that to 3, they all increase how quickly people can get match made, which was a big pain point for a lot of people, is sitting there waiting for games. Yeah. So you don't want to cannibalize your own population and have them divided amongst different things. Sure, maybe you like Dominion goes away and then people just stop playing the game, but it's still going to take the people who might be playing ARAMs or something like that and bring them into there. So that's why those game modes are like stick around for a while, and they're like limited time type thing. And I think it's an interesting thing here that they've chosen that to cannibalize their own population, which is I'm just not sure how it's going to work out for them. I think vanilla forever servers are going to be they're going to be small, or you can only have a small amount of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always told people if you want to know when WoW is dying, it's when they finally go down the end game EverQuest classic route, where the most popular server starts seeing decay, and to bring back people, they just release the most popular expansion over and over and over again on a new server. And that's what's EverQuest. People ask me like, isn't EverQuest from 1999 or whatever it is? And I say, no, man, it's still going strong, because every year or two they release a fresh server on the most popular route of expansions, and people come back and play it. But every time they come back, they lose maybe 10% of the population, and then it just slowly shrinks every year that they do it. But that's just the dying route they can to maximize their income until it dies, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can't expect it to be around forever. It's the way the games are, right? Being a developer is scary, because you make a game and you think about it right now, like they're still paying for Diablo 2 servers, right? Like there's still people out there playing Diablo 2, right? And like the new one's coming out, the remastering, but there's still been people playing Diablo 2 this whole time, and they've had to like maintain servers.
I like to think that some guy still playing Team Fortress 2, still collecting every hat in the game. He's got the world's largest hat collection.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just have to think of how many resources you have to like give to that, and when the population dies down, how do you keep what you have? Because unless you go, oh, it's not worth it to keep these up anymore, which that happened with different games. I think like,
has there been an MMO that's completely shut down?
Yeah, Star Wars.
Okay, yeah, Star Wars.
There's a Star Wars one. I forget which one it was. It's not like the new one. WildStar did shut down.
That's true. I didn't even think about WildStar.
Really interesting. That was only like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was a recent one. They didn't really last very long.
Ago. Yeah, it was like 7 years ago. So, yeah, WildStar, the old Star Wars, Asheron's Call. Yeah, like a lot of them have actually gone under, and then all your characters.
95,000 people still playing TF2, according to chat. It's a fun game. I love Team Fortress 2. I had so much fun playing that game. Collecting the hats.
A lot of people still playing the 95K is an interesting number if that's all that played from all around the world. It seems a little bit low for a game, actually. It's a little low for a game.
Okay. I mean, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You got any thoughts on the drum changes? I feel like is there anyone against the drum changes? I feel like this is just universal. Most people are pretty fine with it.
So do we know what the change is, or we're just saying like it's
no? Well, they don't know, but I mean, it's pretty logical that they're just going to have the debuff that stops everyone from just popping the chain buffs from the leatherworking drums and such. So yeah, what are your thoughts? Any disagree?
Still means you need a leather worker in the
So I mean,
the
you would
group.
still have
Unless
some,
you're just
yeah.
gonna have shamans, right? Unless the shamans, it's like shares with them. Even though that wasn't really a thing, because you could just chain heroism or bloodlust the same group, right? That was a thing. Yeah. I like the change because I think that it just means that people don't have to keep it means that not everybody has to do the level up,
The leatherworking
thing, drop enchanting, all that, because there's specific jewels for jewel crafting. There's only enchants you can do on your rings as an enchanter. You want the engineering goggles for some classes because they're your bis. There's a lot of things that, like, jewel crafting trinket is good for a lot of classes.
I mean, it brings about the question of what is like Tetsu's in the chat saying it removes min maxing. So the real question is what min maxing do you want to keep in the game, and what do you think is healthy for the game, and what do you think is not healthy for the game? Because it's one of those weird things.
It's not removing min maxing. It's just the people who are min maxing are like don't have to do this other thing, right? Like, I understand, like, chaining drums in a group is min maxing, and it feels, but the thing is it feels like a necessity for people who want to, like, even parse. They're dependent on everyone else in their group to do it, and I feel like, sure, as a speed run that's great, but because you'll do it and everybody will get it. But that's like saying in order to raid at all in Nax, you need engineering on everybody, right? Like that's what a lot of guilds do in speed. Like, you have to do it in speedrunning, but a lot of casuals don't want to do that. And this just makes it so you don't have to drop the profession. And the people who are going to do that anyway, we're just going to be the people who are min-maxing in the first place. They're the ones who are going to do the jewel crafting and enchanting and stuff. And so it's a lot friendlier for people who want to get the enchants on their rings, who want to get the jewels, and not have to, like, do that, drop it, get leatherworking again, drop that when they get Nubis rings. Because people who are going to do that anyway are just
the super sweaties, right? Are already there. I mean, the question is how many non-sweaties would even do that? Because I feel like this is something that comes up a lot with people who a lot of guilds try to copy the super hardcore meta when they don't really need to. And I feel like it happens a lot where they do it and then they realize, wait, we don't need to be doing this, and then they stop. It happened with Improve Exposed Armor. People went crazy for Improve Exposed Armor, and meanwhile I was sitting there with Fienzi, he's the rogue class lead in progress, and we were saying everyone should not be doing this. I don't think this is a everyone thing. I think this is a sweaty player speedrun thing, but it's not something that everyone should be focusing on. But yet a lot of people seem to try to mimic what the hardcore community is doing, even when it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, like October's made a really good point of, like, what if they just remove the requirement of being a leatherworker to use drums? It means that the leatherworking profession is actually a little lucrative because you can craft this thing that everybody in your raid needs over and over again. So it's not like bad, and it's kind of like a little more like engineering. And you can just use them, and everybody's gonna have to buy them. You can still chain them, so they're still a min-maxing thing. But Tetsu's talking about, he's saying that removes the min-maxing professions that I don't want removed. So min-maxing professions is a time and money sink that gates people. That means they have to play the game a lot to, like, make money and do this, that I just find very tiresome. It's the same thing as, like, the time I had to do engineering twice to have all the gnomish stuff, and then go back to Goblin,
if you're
right?
like me and you screw it up and you have to do engineering 3 times because you forgot the first time and you had to go back and redo it the right way.
I mean, that would be exactly what you had to do, like, with your rings and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you get bis rings, you got to go level your enchanting, enchant your ring, then swap back to leatherworking, get it back up before the next raid, or jewel crafting. I think you just do it with jewel crafting. But,
I mean, it comes back down to what we were talking about earlier, where we were saying there's some things you look back on really fondly. It's hard to find where the line is, where that sweaty thing that you don't like doing at the time, you look back fondly as that mechanic that reminds you of, oh yeah, this is why Classic WoW was special. Or this is why this game was special. We had to do this weird thing. So it's like, where's the line?
So for me, even as somebody who speedruns, like, I'm fine with my rogue being engineering. My warriors all have to be engineering. My paladin is a phase 1/2 funnel character where a few guilds got together and we're like, we're gonna want annihilators and nightfalls and core leather belts when they come out. So they funneled me all their resources. I became exalted with Thorian Brotherhood, and I'm both an axe smith and a tribal leather worker on that character. So those are my two professions on that character. I can't drop either of them. I'm a nightfall crafter. Maybe I could drop leatherworking at this point, but that was like that character's sole purpose was, you funneled them all the stuff. But I raid on that character now, but there's no way I can get into a raid without dropping one of those things that people like valued at the time, especially like I could never actually go do BWL because I had a character that had like a BWL speed run because like you need sappers or whatever, right? Or even like a Fairlina, like the Giga pull. I can't be a part of that. I don't have a sapper. So I'd have to do the pull. But yeah, I think that's one thing I don't like is I feel like on that character, I would have to then drop those professions and spread them out through other characters or just make a new profession mule, right? And that just means that I got to do that extra thing that people are worried about of having profession mules, which I'm like, buy a boost, have a profession mule. So that's where you like craft stuff. And then your main is the one that has all the min-max things. I don't know. It just feels like extra busy work for me where if I want to play my character, I don't want to be leveling up professions and just sinking gold into it all the time like that just for the min-max. It just seems like a headache.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is going to be an interesting one for the comments. I'm curious to see what the comments will think of that one. But here's a question.
That makes this stuff special, though, the time. You think it's really special to, like, just drop, like, get out of raid with Bis Ring, drop my profession, and then level it up by auction house stuff, be like, man, this really sucks. And then enchant my ring, and then drop enchanting and pick up leatherworking and re-get it up so I can use drums before the next week. That just sounds like shit to me. Like, I don't know. That just feels like busy work. That feels like a big gold sink that's I don't know.
We're gonna see how the YouTube
I just don't like that
it
at all, dude. I don't like that at all.
I think it's one of those things where
I love min-maxing. I'm gonna do it, right? Like, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna hate it while I do it. But
I think it depends on the school you fall into. Like half of the people are gonna
go playing arena, right? It's like I'm gonna spend my time playing arena instead of doing that, right? Yeah, it's busy work. Yeah, it's tedious, right?
Yeah, half the people are gonna be in that category, and I feel you fall into one or two categories. Half the people are gonna be, well, maybe not half, but some of the people are gonna be in that category where they want to do that. They want that min max, and then there's gonna be a whole bunch of other people in that other category, like you, who just don't want that busy work. They'd rather just go play arenas or something. So the question is, who do you cater to? Like, and can you even cater to both? I don't know.
It's super annoying though, the casual players that it doesn't affect at all. Complaining so hardcore players that love it. See, here's the thing is, like, I don't consider myself a casual player, and I still just don't really like it at all. Like, I feel like it's a way to gatekeep the higher end in a way that I'm just like, why would you even do this? Like, just allow it to be accessible. I'm not going to feel special that I leveled up Gnomish engineering and Goblin engineering, and now I have a chicken, right? It's like, it's just something I had to do. Doesn't make me go like, it means like if I bring somebody into my raid team, I go like, did you do this? Are you doing this? Do you have your chicken? Right? You got your Arcanite Dragonling? You good? Okay? Like, sorry, you're gonna have to do that before the next raid's requirement. Like, I don't know. That just feels really weird to me. I just don't like it. I know it's a thing and you have to do it right now, but I would rather that restriction just be removed. But
okay,
I think it's a silly prerequisite that is not skill expressive. It has nothing to do with like the person. It's just like, why would I limit this person who may not have the same time to play the game, right? It's time like a factor of like your skill level. I don't know. It's completely optional though. It is completely optional, right? Yeah. But if there's going to be min-maxers and everybody's going to want to do it, that even wants to like remotely compete, and they're already going to do it. So like, I just think make it more accessible. Like the thing that Octobers was talking about with like the drum rotation and stuff. Yeah, I think that's fine if they just make it drums like leatherworkers you don't have to be a leatherworker to use them, right? So because that still has the min-maxing portion of it with the use and people in your groups coordinating. But
so you just don't want the tedious side of things.
I just want the tedious side of it, you know? It's just annoying to me, right? Like that doesn't feel like engaging gameplay. It's optional, right? But it feels like really annoying busy work. Like, God, I'm trying to think if there's like an item I've gotten at all. I think there's like, it's like when I get a new pants upgrade or something, and I'm like, do I got to go do a ZG for an idol? Fuck. Like,
I was so happy
man.
when I forgot the last idol I needed because I know I never have to go back to ZG ever.
Yeah. It's like, even if it's a slight upgrade, like I'll pass on it and just be like, I really don't want to do ZG. I'm not going to do ZG in the next few days anyway.
Okay.
So like,
well, I mean, speaking of the min-max crowd, here's another optimization that people have been talking about is Horde versus Alliance. We see some guilds talking about completely re-rolling Horde for a little bit of min-max. What are your thoughts on that as someone in Rain and as a speedrunner?
Horde is going to be better in PvP and PvE, but the margin in which you see the differences right now in like knack speed runs between Horde and Alliance, where Alliance are like, it's way easier to speed run and like the top is dominated by Alliance, it's not going to be as stark in TBC as it is in Classic in terms of the faction difference. Alliance now is better than Horde is by a larger margin than Horde will be better than Alliance in TBC. That's my take on it. Is, you know, in PvP, a little bit of a different story, but you can still get up there and not have to like min-max your racials. You can still hit 2200 pretty easily without having to min-max racials. I did it as a human paladin, right, back in the day.
I mean the guilds that have been discussing it that I've seen. I guess the fear is that they don't want to be Onslaught in Classic WoW, where you're this speedrunning guild, but it feels like they always have like one hand a little bit of a handicap because they're the wrong side, essentially. But
I don't mind that. I don't mind handicaps. I think those are fun. I mean, that's why I played Paladin in Arena in season 3 and 4 and got number 1, is because I didn't want to play Druid. I didn't want to play Priest. Like, I like the challenge of that personally. It's why I like a lot of Horde players that play right now are a little chest thumpy of like, we don't have South, bro. Like, it's way harder to tank on this side. And it is. Even if it's a weaker side in terms of like, oh yeah, it is. Like,
I mean, it is noticeable, right? For anyone that doesn't play on both sides, because I have one rogue on Alliance, one rogue on Horde, and people always ask me, hey Snow, when I'm on the progress raids, they ask me, hey Snow, you should be engaging faster. You should just get in there with the rest of them.
Get in.
Like I have like Murthan, who's in progress raid team 1 in my raid on his alt as well. And he's super good. He's always like instantly right in there. And then people always look at me and compare and say, hey Snow, you gotta do that. You gotta do that. But then I say, dude, I play Horde side as well. I have PTSD from running in really quickly and just backstabbing and instant pulling threat and dying. So there's definitely like, there's definitely adaptations you take from the different side of things, whether you're Horde or whether you're Alliance, as far as the threat and such.
It's very, very true. But I think that the difference between the factions is not going to be that different. Because if you think about the min-maxing aspect of it, what's going to be the big difference? The big difference is going to be Hunters and Warlocks are going to be Orc for the pet damage and the Blood Fury or Blood Rage or whatever it is. Blood Fury? I think it's Blood Fury. Where it'll affect spell damage. And what else is there? Like, Orc weapon skills, expertise still matched by humans. In fact, I think swords are technically better in the game still than axes. Whether you're dual wielding Warglaives or you are going for the big two-handed sword out of Sunwell as arms. I think there's only really a two-handed sword at that point. Maces carry you the entire way as well. Cataclysm's Edge, which is, big two-handed sword from Hyjal. So most of the time, I think Alliance is like a little bit of an edge there in terms of that expertise, slightly. But Tauren, 5% more HP. They finally get Kings, so they're slightly better tanks. But the amount that they tank versus like a human tank that has the expertise, which works doubly well, because expertise works on dodge and parry. So for humans, it's very, very valuable to, like, if you're tanking, to have that expertise. DPS that are melee DPS, you all want to get expertise soft capped so the thing can't dodge you. But you don't really care about parries anyway. So when you get like 26 expertise, it's way better for a tank to have it. So I think like the difference is not going to be that large. In PvP, undead will be very, very dominant. There's like the RMP triple undead. There was 2 types of RMPs. There was the triple undead, where all 3 people are undead, the rogue, the mage, and the priest. And then on the Alliance side, it was a human rogue, a gnome mage, and a dwarf priest. And dwarf priests have chastise, right? So that was something that that faction can also play, and those were both competitive at the highest level back then. So I think the differences between them are not going to be incredibly stark like they are right now, but I think it's obviously an advantage if warlocks and hunters become the big meta.
Fair enough. Yeah. I don't think I personally I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal either. I think it will be a deal, but
now in terms of sexiness, blood elves. Let me talk to you about blood elves. This is the biggest mistake ever. I actually think blood elves are the biggest mistake that they ever made when it came to second to introducing death knights to the game and death grip being like the most bullshit ability in the game. But giving blood elves to the Horde created a faction balance that never recovered ever. Because people will play characters based on how attractive they are and how strong they are. And blood elves were both for the longest time. Like they were like bis in both. So there's no reason. It's kind of like right now, some people won't play Horde because they're like little ugly for me. So they go roll Alliance, right? It's the same thing where like even though dwarves and gnomes have like the best PvP ratios on the Alliance side, people still play night elves because they look good. If night elves had like legitimately, if night elves had like a human racial or even a gnome racial, they'd be so dominant how often you see them. And that's why like orcs are really popular, right? And undead because they have a good racial and they look cool. It's the same thing with blood elves. Giving blood elves to Alliance side may have been a better way to kind of keep things cool, but ultimately blood elves just created a big
I have rogues in my guild, or one of the rogues in my guild is already re-rolling just for blood elf, and we ask him why, man. You're like orc or undead, they're great racials. He's like, nah, I gotta be the blood elf, man. It just looks better.
Yeah, you gotta be the blood elf. Yeah, exactly. And the racial is really, really strong. So no,
yeah.
But the thing is like in terms of PVE, blood elves are the worst prot and ret paladins, but they're the best PvP paladins. So that's like a PvP for a PvE like exchange when you trade races. So
do you feel there's going to be more people doing PvE for PvE? PvE for PvP in TBC, because arena is going to be huge, and like personally, I started Classic to PvP, but then I remembered that Classic PvP sucks, and so I focus a lot more on the PvE side of things. But is there, as someone who's been highly ranked in PvP in the past, how much of an advantage is PvEing, do you think, to PvP?
Pretty large, actually. So I think if you're exclusively a PvPer, you are at a disadvantage versus people who PvE. Now, they introduced the resilience system, which reduces the chance that you're crit, and I believe the effectiveness of crits on you, which is what resilience was back in the day. It worked on spells and all that. But I remember being a paladin in Sunwell, and I would wear 4-piece Gladiator, 4-piece Sunwell set, because they made that an 8-piece set, and there's only 2 and 4-piece bonuses on it. So I wore 4 and 4, and I mixed and matched. Because I was like, I already have a lot of armor, so that works against like physical damage, and I fight a lot of rogues and warriors and 2s especially. So I really didn't care that much. I felt like the resilience wasn't going to carry me past that point anyway, and I should just have more healing power, more spell power, more more set bonuses that I thought were really beneficial for my character, because resilience doesn't increase your damage output, right? Like versatility does in retail. Versatility is necessary in PvP because it reduces the damage you take and increases the damage you output. So in PvP, you do way different damage than PvE, and people take way different damage based on if they have PvP gear or not. So in TBC, it is a very distinct advantage to be PvEing. Warglaives are better than any weapon you'll get in the game otherwise. Weapons that will carry you to get your weapons are a big advantage. Having access to shoulders before your PvP shoulders, it's honestly like I said, it's a very big advantage in my opinion to be able to PvE and get ahead of the curve.
I mean, you mentioned Warglaives. That's something that's an interesting topic. Where do you think the prio lies there? Because both rogues and warriors want it to some extent. Who do you think gets prio? Because I had a look at Fight Club just to get a peek. So Fight Club is the warrior Discord for people who don't know. Yep. So I had a little peek and see what they were saying about the warriors and and whether they wanted it. And a lot of the warriors were actually saying that usually from their memory they went to rogues because the rogues had been exposed armor and maybe it's slightly itemized a little bit better. But what are your thoughts as someone that plays both warrior and rogue? Where do you think the prio lies?
So here's what you do: is you give the first one that drops to a rogue, and then regardless of what drops next, you give that to a warrior, and then they have to fight about it. So like if I get an offhand, then a main hand, my warrior gets the offhand, rogue gets the main hand, and then whatever drops next, they just complete it. Okay, so it's like, I'm not going to complete a set of Warglaives right away. I'm going to split them up right away, and so whichever one drops, it's up to God, dude. It's up to RNG. Whoever completes their set first. So you split it up. But in reality, though, I actually think rogue, because you're probably just going to have one rogue, and it's going to be your imp expose in the min-max area. Also, from there, if it's so, I guess I have two opinions. If you are in like a speedrunning guild, you probably give it to the rogue to keep them happy. But if you're min-maxing and your rogue actually is a cuck, then you give it to the fury because you're trying to min-max damage. If you are a normal guild, you give it to the person who contributes more to the guild, right? You don't reward the class.
Just the class,
reward the player. Yeah, you reward the player. I don't think it's a class.
You give it to the biggest streamer in the guild, chat says. Okay, yeah, but yeah, I mean, you mentioned rewarding the class, which is it was an interesting point, because I feel like a lot of people like they look at BOOSTS lists, they look at optimizations, and they forget that not every guild has the same quality of players. Not everyone is equally outputting the damage or outputting min-maxing or putting in the effort. A lot of the times, like this came up in Classic as well, where there were discussions
you need to be clear, though. You need to be clear about what type of guild you are.
Yeah.
You need to be very clear about what type of guild you are. Because I've had conversations where, like, I was running a guild and I was like, oh, we're min-maxing. And then what ends up happening is something drops and somebody had it on, like, one of their sheets as, like, really high, and then they got it. And the complaint is, like, why is a druid getting hammered the Twisting Nether? They're just a fairy fire bot. That's way more effective on a priest or a paladin that's actually going to be healing, right? And so you have to be very clear about which you are and don't deviate from that. If you're min-maxing, then you give it to a warrior. If you are, a guild that wants to reward players who put things in and like take the dick for a while and play a bad spec like they don't want to be playing, like imp expose, then you reward that person. So that's you just gotta be very clear about that. It's kind of like Thunder Fury Prio at the start. Guess I'm giving Zirene Reigns Prio. I don't know about that. We'll see. I kind of want it on my rogue for in the different raid, in the other raid that I'm in. I don't know. I don't think I want it on my warrior. I'll be playing prot. So
interesting. We'll, you don't want it?
Yeah. I want it on my rogue, but I'm not gonna like fury with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like Fury Warriors, a whole other thing is how many warriors are when do the warriors even play Fury and such? Because I'm not as familiar with the warrior side of things. Or what's the goal there?
I have like a really interesting take on this. I don't think it's like a normal take. But like, do you know what like your BIS TBC composition is?
No.
Have you like drafted one ever? No.
So wait, what do you mean by comp? As in like raid comp?
Yeah, raid comp. Like 25-man raid comp. What's your BIS?
I've seen a few things, but honestly, like a lot of people are memeing about just bringing 5,000 warlocks. But I think like there's some valid for some balance as well. But I'm not sure which way I lean on that one.
So people are saying like 14 warlocks stuff. I'm actually gonna send you my drafted BIS comp.
Okay, so you've got that is a lot of Fury Warriors. So for people can't see, but he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Fury Warriors on his BIS comp.
Yeah. So
okay, you're gonna have to explain this one.
Yeah. So the thing is Fury Warriors, even without world buffs, are still incredibly powerful right now. Right? If you go into a raid with no world buffs, you're still gonna have top Fury Warriors. The thing is when you go into TBC, people are like, oh, hunters are really good and warlocks are really good. Absolutely, they both are incredibly good. But the thing is right now people are seeing like a bunch of sheets of like warlocks is top damage, hunters is top damage. I think that in endless, fights last a lot longer. Those are not cooldown gated classes like things that use like adrenaline rush, right? So like rogues will be a little more valuable than people think because things are gonna have a lot less health than they do on endless. There are very unfriendly melee mechanics, but I think that there's going to be ways to work around them and cleave things down in a way that will make it not as important. And right now, it's like there's some fights that don't have like friendly melee mechanics, right? Like Saffron is not exactly the friendliest. You can't damage it while it's in the air type thing, but you still gain a lot of time while it's down by actually doing a lot of damage to it.
Wait, hold on. People are asking for this raid comp thing that you have. Guys, I'll put this in the show notes when I put the highlights out and such. So don't worry, you guys will get access to all this stuff.
So basically, what I've done with the composition is I physical damage stacked it. It's a prot arms warrior in the first group with protection, feral enhancement as well. Then it's like Fury, assassination, rogue for. They're going to be combat, but they have to have imp exposed for this. Beastmaster enhancement, Fury, Beastmaster enhancement, survival, arcane destruction, affliction, restoration, shaman, then resto druid, holy priest for buffing, and then 2 holy paladins and a resto shaman. So I'm basically stacking physical damage here, and the reason is in speedrunning, people speedran on classic servers in private servers, right? People speedrun in private servers. People don't really speedrun TBC private servers at all, right? So when you see stats that are put up there, these aren't really like people going for world record times or anything like that. And I think that the hunter and warlock hype is a little overrated because you have to gain more time through the pure damage those classes do when they hardcast than you would gain by being able to attack and move with the mobs at the same time by running a melee cluster. So you have to gain more time by killing it faster with these range guys that have to do 2.5 and 2 second casts than you would gain by being able to move with the mob at the same time, which in speedrunning, you almost never stop pressing W. It's going to be pretty hard. Melee stack, no survival hunter? No, there's a survival hunter.
Interesting.
No, there's a survival hunter, there's a prot paladin.
So you're saying because you're constantly moving, not having to stop. Essentially, that's the basis of the theory. Is you don't have to stop with all the melee. You just keep going.
Yep.
Huh.
Because what's going to happen is your hunters will move with misdirect in the front, so they're going to be with the melee cluster anyway, pulling mobs into it constantly like a blender. So I think that you're going to have a melee stacked speed run be successful. And I think that like the hard casting problem, because like even the mages in our like if you think about it right now, like speed runs, mages are casting like Scorch because things are dying so quickly. Warlocks are casting Searing Pain because Shadow Bolts don't even get off. Like the more that you can move with mobs, the better, and the less your cast times are, the better. I think Seed of Corruption's 2 seconds and Shadow Bolts 2.5. And if in order to get 2 Shadow Bolts off, it takes you 5 seconds. Sure, those Shadow Bolts might hit really hard, but you're gonna have a lot of damage that gets wasted by Shadow Bolts that travel and end up like the mob dies with them in the air. That's wasted cast. You're gonna have a lot of wasted damage via that. You're gonna have a lot of wasted damage via like all those hard times that you have to stop with the mobs and keep them in range of the warlocks instead of moving. So I think that there'll be enough of a damage loss, but they do show up really high on stats right now because people aren't speedrunning, right? They pump. They absolutely pump, but I don't think they're gonna be able to pump and move at the same time, which is a prerequisite for this.
Huh. I mean, the interesting thing that comes out from this this theory for the raid comp that you brought out is something that Nether brought up. I made a video about whether rogues are relevant in or how do rogues suck in TBC essentially. Mm-hmm. And one point Nether brought out. So Nether, for people who don't know, he's a rogue class lead for Dream State, one of the top Horde speedrunning guilds, and he was saying that look, there might be times when you might want to try running a melee comp or a rogue or more rogues or something, just as far as theory crafting and trying out different comps and strategies goes. You're going to be in a problem if you get to that stage and you have no geared warriors and no rogues because you just swapped everything to caster focus. So do you think that's going to bite people then? Because a lot of people are just swapping to full caster comps right now or very, very caster focused. And I'm not sure if anyone but the speedrun guilds have the extra raids and such to be gearing up the melee on the side. So how do you think that's going to play out?
I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be easier to swap to casters than it would be to swap to melee because warriors are incredibly gear dependent. Because they're by far the best scaling class with gear in terms of like an ungeared one versus a geared one. Reasoning is they're the only class where your resource generation changes with your stats. The more crit you have, the more rage you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
Rogues will always get the same static amount of increase. You're going to get more damage out of like your obviously your warlock gets gear and hit and stuff like that, but your resource generation as a warrior goes up, and getting crit makes it so you have more attack speed, they're for longer, so it's not like being able to like slice and dice the entire time and just play around that as a rogue. So warriors scale incredibly well because of the way that their gear affects their stats and their abilities. So he's overestimating how much health things have in places like SEC and how much CC you need on some pulls. I don't know if you're talking about me overestimating.
I think he's talking to someone else. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because otherwise that'd be underestimating. But yeah, I just think things are gonna. I know that world buffs make things die very quickly right now, and like if you go into Nax without world buffs, like you definitely feel the difference of what it like used to be like back then. But I still think that having all these things that stack and move towards physical damage is going to be the win here. Like, it's a very interesting composition, and I know there's fights like Muru where the entire like floor turn in the center turns to shadow, and you can't actually like damage the boss unless you're using range. But in that case, you only had your ranged players on Muru, and you had all your melee killing like the ads anyway, and then you would bring the melee in. So right now the melee would all be on the boss, and you'd have people holding ads until the bottom part like lit up, and then you couldn't damage the boss, and then they all just go blender the ads and then come back. So I think there's a lot of strategies that will come out that'll be different. I think there's going to be shit like the council before Illidan, stacking them and cleaving, because you can stack 2 of them, and I think you can effectively stack 3 for a little bit. One of, I think, Arcane Explosion and the Diva Aura you don't want to have in there, but you can stack 2 of them and cleave them, right? So without
I would love to see what happens with this melee comp, because right now people always come to me because I'm the rogue guy. People ask me about whether rogues are relevant and such. And I tell them, hey guys, we're going to have probably, if you're not a super hardcore guild, you can still bring a rogue or 2. That's perfectly fine. But I feel more bad for the warriors who are cutting down from way bigger numbers than the rogues, and having to figure that out, because there's way less slots, and you're cutting down from what, like 8, 10, 20 warriors, depending on your guild. It's way tougher on the warriors, I think, than anything else for this transition.
And I'm melee stacked, and I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 warriors total, counting an arms and a prot. So it's 5 fury, an arms, and a prot. So I only have 7 there. Still a fourth of the raid, but it's not like how many people have right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you brought up Endless Fresh as well, or just Endless in general, the differences in servers and such. I feel like people want us to talk about Endless a little bit. Endless has been going pretty popping off right now as far as the private server community goes. Are you playing it? Because I think you said you were not going to touch any of that.
Not touching Endless. Yeah, not touching Endless.
So is
I know like a lot of people are on it, but
is the reason for that is just to keep some things interesting for when you do play TBC?
Yeah, like I know as a content creator, it's better for me to play it and then release content early and be first to market when TBC comes out and be like, this is my guide. But I really don't care about that type of thing. I care about my own personal enjoyment. And I think playing Endless is like, it would ruin that for the TBC release. I'm a bit of a purist in that sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, I told my chat before in previous streams that if I wasn't a content creator, I would not even, I would be tempted to not even look up anything for TBC and just go into TBC completely fresh and just know the bare minimum I need. And then I get to experience like the raid content as if it was new again almost. But it's just like the side effect is that because I'm a guide creator, I have to do endless stuff. But have you seen about all the bans going out?
No, what bans?
So that's a whole nother topic, is that Blizzard basically went down the list of all the people streaming Endless on Twitch and just slapped a lot of them with 48-hour bans. But I feel like a lot of this is almost to be expected because Blizzard's been doing this for a long time. They haven't liked people streaming.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed to.
You're not supposed to stream it. Yeah,
you're not.
Yeah, and I've seen some people making angry videos and such, saying like, oh, they were finally getting traction on Twitch and all these other things. But on the other side of things, come on, guys, you kind of it's almost like you had to know this was gonna happen. But yeah,
I don't know why they're doing that.
Honestly,
why you would stream like that?
It's not worth it, guys. Guys, if any of you guys are thinking about streaming Endless, don't. It's not worth the hit on your account, the ban. Especially if it's DMCA. I don't know if it's a DMCA hit as well, but you only get 3 chances of that, and you definitely do not want that on your account.
Yeah. Somebody's talking about dual wield prot. Like right now, the way things line up on Endless, especially, nobody dual wield prots. You full prot because rage costs going down on your abilities means that you don't really care about not getting hit, so you can stack defense and dodge and shit and still have enough rage. You don't need flurry to keep rage because you have like a 9 cost heroic strike and devastate. So yeah, it's not as much of an issue. Misdirect helps you out a ton, so survivability is big. Like imagine just having hunters just misdirecting and like even AoE packs, right? Multi-shotting really helps out. So you don't care as much about that. Now, will there be some people who try it? Yeah, there's probably going to be some people who try it. The deep prot tree really doesn't help you out that much, and still throwing a shield on is going to be good. But I think that there will be people who do dual wield Fury, just because the damage output's going to be higher, the threat generation will be higher. But I don't think it's like necessary anymore, right? And I think going prot has very big there's very big reasons for it, right? Like, but I just don't think the deep prot tree is that good. It's kind of the thing I'm getting at here.
Okay. Well, while you're on the warriors subject,
you do need a warrior. You do have to have a prot warrior.
How do you feel about the fact that warriors don't have that threat drop? Because I have seen that was one of the arguments that actually came up in Fight Main when I was looking up. Some people were arguing like, oh, do warriors don't have a threat drop? Is that why you don't give them the Warglaives and such? But I thought that was a bit weird. I don't know about that one.
No,
they seem fine even without the threat drop.
Yeah. All warriors get salve, and you get like your tank gets misdirect. All warriors get salve. The pull is way less variant because your main tank is going to have misdirect with aim shots and like the hunter's just pumping threat into him plus his own threat. You're going to be completely fine. Also, you produce less threat right now in Fury because of improved Berserker stance, the talent near the bottom of the tree. It reduces the threat that you generate while you're in Berserker stance. So Berserker stance is already a 0.8 modifier, and then you add Salve on top of that, and then you lower that modifier in the first place anyway by having Berserker stance. So you're going to be very low in terms of how much threat you actually generate, regardless of what side you are.
Okay, I think let's wrap up with some fun topics like PvP, because I know you were a big PvPer. You said you were like rank 1 for a while.
Yeah, I was rank 1 in season 3 and 4 as a holy paladin in 2s and 3s, with a warrior, and then in my 3s it was a warrior and elemental shaman.
So are you planning to go really, really hard then on the PvP side of things? Or how do you think it's going to be? Because I've been looking at it, and my chat's always asking me what are my plans as far as that goes. And man, the competition is going to be insane for the top ranks. Yep. I feel it's going to be insane on a whole different level. Because when I think back to those days of PvP, I got to gladiator rating, sure, in the early days, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of knew what I was doing, but I didn't know. And now the level of skill that everyone's going to be able to bring in there, because there's so much content telling you how to min-max your PvP things. People are just better at the game. They know more now. I think the top ranks are going to be insane.
Yeah, I think so. And the problem is people believe that what's going to happen is it'll be like harder to get weapons and harder to get shoulders and stuff and get the rating. I don't think that's going to be true. I think it just means the rating is going to cover larger and larger elos. That's how an elo system works, is even though you need like 2200 to get shoulders, it's just going to be so much easier to get 2200 because you're going to have a lot of people, more people than before, spread out across the same elo, but I think the elo is going to go higher. So I think you're going to see people at like 2900, whereas back in the day, 2400 was rank 1.
Yeah.
2400 was rank 1 in season 3 and 4. You like 2300, I think, was like rank 1 in like season 2 or something. So getting to shoulders was like a big thing. It was like a big achievement. But it's just going to be like how it is right now, where you see somebody in Nax gear and you're like, oh, they're just in Nax guild. Back in the day, there was only like 2 people who could even kill like KT on your server. One. So you saw like a Gressel and you were like, damn. Now it's just like, that guy doesn't have Gressel. What a fucking chump, dude. Like, guess he doesn't have prio. Like, that's all it is now. It's going to be like that. People will have access to weapons and shoulders a lot easier, in my opinion. Now, it depends on if they are going to do server pods and battle groups. Because if they just do everybody can play everybody else kind of thing, then it definitely increases and inflates the pool. But if it's a like 3 servers, 4 servers, 5 servers, like even they probably do more than that. They probably do like 10 servers per battle group or something. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot different and like more reminiscent of before, because you're not going to have as many good players in the top spots, right? You're not going to have like there's like like a person on each server or like a 3s team on each server that's dominant, and that's like 30 people versus you could have 300.
I think they were talking about. I saw some discussion that potentially there was going to be more spots open, so they were going to expand the brackets a little bit more, which kind of lends like validity towards the thinking that maybe it's just going to be a massive arena population of just there's not going to be that whole just everyone, if you want to get gladiator and you want it to count, it has to be on BG9. It's going to be on BG9 because that's the only BG that counted. That was how it was in the old days. But it sounds like they're looking at just having one big BG potentially.
Back in the day, you played on BG9 or rerolled on BG9. That was Rampage, I think, is what it was. I think it was Rampage. Rampage or Bloodthirst. But yeah, regardless, you did that. Or if you were somebody on another server, you would go PTR, and only good players were queuing up on PTR. So the PTR, you could like roll a character and like. It could be like a priest or a druid. Like I played paladin and I had to go PTR, and you get like a 70 druid or a 70 priest to practice. I was dog shit at them. I couldn't play them worth a damn. That's why I never went pro. It's because nobody wants a holy paladin. Even if you were good, they'd be like, can you play priest and druid? It's like, no. And they were like, guess not. But yeah, you go PTR for that because everybody on the PTR is playing in the same queue, right? So you could actually just be like, oh, yep, we're all scrimming, get on PTR, and only the good people are queuing up at that time.
So does this mean you're gonna be pushing for what are your personal plans then for the PvP side of things?
I won't be PvPing on my warriors. I'm not a very good PvP warrior. I prefer PvE more than anything, which is a little strange for a warrior, even though they're strong. Yeah. I don't want to have to do the thing with blacksmithing with Stun Herald to stay up,
Stun Herald.
Right? That's a
whole topic there. Stupid stun.
It's another min-max thing that I just like don't want to do. Sure, it can get me to like gladiator weapons, but I'm like, you can do it without. The gladiator weapons are better for DPS. For my warriors, I'm not going to play it. For my holy paladin, I will. Not because it's like something that I think is going to help the character, but something that I enjoy doing. So I'll definitely PvP on my holy paladin, and I'm definitely PvPing on my rogue. I think if you play rogue, it's a necessity that you PvP, because the weapons are just going to be so good for you. And I personally would sit there and go, who am I going to give glaives to? I'm probably going to give glaives to the person who already has weapons that helped out and made it so that we didn't have to give him any weapons before this, and they could go to like other melee. So if this guy's grinding his own weapons, he's a good PvPer and stuff, I would give it to that person. That's personally what I'm doing. So I would be grinding up to 2.2k plus on my paladin and my rogue, but not my warriors.
You're going to make a horde tune?
Yeah, I'm going to make a blood elf paladin. That'll be the one that I primarily PvP on, but I won't be PvEing on very much.
Nice. Yeah, so talking about the weapons, for people that don't know, so from the rogue side of things, as far as weapons go, the season 1 weapons are amazing, by the way. They're really, really good. I've seen some people discuss doing blacksmithing for early weapons. That's been one of the matters that people have been talking about. So that the idea is you rush blacksmithing to get the early weapons, and you get the advantage for those early weeks of arena when everyone else is bad stuff and you're just smashing them in the head with a really high DPS mace, which by the way, it's the best. It's pretty much the best weapon you're gonna get for. It's actually higher DPS by a tiny bit than the gladiator weapons. The blacksmith mace, as far as that goes. But don't feel that it has to be done though, because it's only a few DPS. But yeah, the season 1 weapons are crazy. They're crazy.
Isn't it
crazy
just
good.
your main hand though, and you can't craft
Yeah.
2 of them?
Yeah, just your main hand for the
So like,
for the
it's
blacksmith.
still better. It's still better to get dual wield blacksmithing.
There's
or not
there's the
blacksmithing, it's still
sword.
better
There's
to get-
that what do you call the is it the sword? There's one offhand that's really good.
from
From from well, I think it depends on which. Yeah, Latros. Latros is very good. It's often.
I think it's where it's from.
Yeah, it's super crazy good. So that's been something that's been discussed is rushing the early raiding, using the blacksmithing weapons to get the advantage early on. But speaking of that though, do you think there's going to be, how bad do you think the advantage is going to be for the private server players? Because I've seen a lot of discussion of that, because these private server guys have been playing PvP since God knows how long on TBC. So clearly there is going to be an advantage. But how long do you think the advantage is going to be there, and how much do you think is going to factor in?
Sorry. But in terms of advantage, I don't think it'll last too long. I think it'll definitely be there, but I don't think it'll last too long. I think it'll last like 2 months, 3 months.
I mean, the arena season
Is
is
it real
long as
advantage?
well. It's what I think I was looking up. It was like 20 weeks or something. It's quite a long time for season 1 if they go
about as long
at
as-
the same pace.
That's about as long as it was between AQ release and Nax release.
Yeah.
That's how long that phase was. It was 20 weeks.
It's a good period of time, but I think I have the same thoughts. I know a lot of people are saying that. I mean, there's some crazy private server players, like I think Mer. A lot of people look up to the rogue Mer from private servers, who's apparently a god at PvP. And I feel like the advantage is going to be there at the start, but the good players are just always going to be good players. They're going to spam arena games. They're going to get their experience in. They're going to play arena nonstop, and the advantage will disappear after a little bit. I don't feel it's just going to be always there.
Yeah. It God, how do I want to say this? It's like it will matter. It will matter a lot at the start because of knowledge, right? It just I think that's all that matters right now. Is like I played retail and I hadn't played any of the expansions for a decent amount of time or enough time between Wrath of the Lich King and current. I like did not play. So the thing that I was like having to struggle with, and like I'm now in like boosting and shit like that for like RBGs, is I just had to learn like everything that people do. I had to learn what demon hunters do. I had no clue. I didn't even know what a monk did, or let alone was. And it takes you like 2 months of actually really just hardcore understanding all the specs and stuff. It's a lot of knowledge, but you'll eventually get there. And it's not like something where there's like infinite interact, because like there's people like myself who didn't play private servers for classic, right? And like you don't have to be a private server kid to like understand things in Nax, right? You can learn. You can use like 15-year-old knowledge. Like all that stuff is very relevant still. And as long as you have a mind that's open to actually learning in the right way in arena, then yeah, it won't matter at the end of the day. It won't matter in like 2 months.
Have I told you of my maybe psychopath plan to try to get ready for TBC?
No.
I'm leveling one of every character of every class to max level, and then to try to understand the knowledge behind them. Because the problem with me has always been I've always been like a good rogue player, but my experience outside of rogue is limited. And then I did get gladiator rating, but like, I mean, we're talking about back then, it didn't mean as much. A lot of people didn't need a huge amount of knowledge to get gladiator rating. So that's been one of my plans, is to take advantage of the private servers for the speed of leveling and level one of everything up to like a decent level, so that at least I have knowledge of how the classes work.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good idea. Like, I actually highly recommend that, and think that's the way to gain knowledge, is through play and feeling like this is what really sucks when it happens to me, right? It's like, what really sucks for a paladin? Like, what sucks when I play that? And then I get better at playing against paladins because I do what they hate, right? Or I do what I hate having happen to me. So yeah, I think that's the best way to do it, honestly, is to be able to get your hands in there. But at the same time, you'll still get knowledge by playing against it all the time.
Yeah. Okay. I think we covered a lot. That was a...
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. We talked for a long time. That was fun.
Yeah, it was great, dude. I had a great time.
So yeah, guys, we're gonna do this probably, I don't know, every week or so, something like that. Just come hang out, talk WoW. I think it'll be a lot fun as well. Once TBC gets going, we can kind of look back at current events, like what speedrun stuff has happened, what arena stuff has happened. There's always gonna be some hot topic in WoW that people wanna go over and look.
Oh yeah, you could totally do it. You could do it now with Classic, right? Like I think now it's like dying down a little bit in terms of like the new stuff, the strategies, all these cool things, having like enough news. But we'll see what happens when this next circus pops up, because the circus will always be relevant for speedrunning.
Yeah. But yeah, for people asking, this podcast will be on the YouTube, the VOD. I will make highlights as well. So I'm going to make a highlights channel at the least, because I think people really love podcast highlights. And I will try to get it on Spotify and such as well for those asking. But yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out today. But yeah, for people asking about the min-max stuff, so like the entire idea for my new guides website is that I'm gonna take what I did for rogues and just do it for every class. It's like a crazy amount of work. You won't see me maybe as much, guys. Maybe I have to scale back the streaming to 3-4 days a week. But yeah, that's my plan. I want to make the world's greatest TBC guide website. But it's gonna be like a crazy amount of work. I don't know if I can do it yet. We're gonna try. But yeah, if you see it down at the bottom of the stream, guys, it says tbcguides.gg/podcast. I'm building a whole page there where I'm going to have show notes as well as highlights and the VODs and all linked. It'll all be there. I'm going to get it done this weekend. So yeah, look forward to that, guys. But thanks for hanging out, everyone. Have a good weekend if I don't see you tomorrow.